The Texas high school football season is in full gear as we enter week 3, and already we've seen some instant classics, some new faces stepping in for legendary coaches, and of course, plenty of big-time college commitments, and we are here with you every step of the way to talk about it all. Hello and welcome to Dave Campbell's Texas Football Tonight. I'm Nick Laupius, joined by Greg Powers, the man who knows just about everything about some of the best players in the state of Texas. Greg, I know that usually you're on the sidelines for Friday nights, but just kind of take us through the excitement being here in the studio tonight as we get to watch a lot of really good games.
Well, first and foremost, thanks for the warm welcome. I'm fired up to be here. Week 3 is like the week that separates the pretenders from the contenders, so to speak. So I'm really fired up to see how these teams react in week 3. Who are the top teams in Texas as we head into like the district schedule? We're going to find out tonight.
Yes, and we have some very exciting games in our spotlight games tonight as we take a look at that now. We start out with a couple of 2-0 teams, Bridgeland versus Shadow Creek. That'll be a good one. We've got North Shore taking on Spring Westfield, and then Summer Creek and Klein Collins. Then a DFW matchup is Hebron versus Eaton coming up a little bit later. North Crowley versus Lovejoy, and College Station versus Temple as now we take a look at some of the voices we'll be chatting with later this evening. Gavin Moritz on the call for North Shore versus Spring Westfield. James Tritley, North Crowley versus Lovejoy. Trevor Bullard, Bridgeland versus Shadow Creek, and Chase Snyder, Summer Creek versus Klein Collins. So again, a lot of very exciting games as we take a look, or we already saw some of those spotlight games, and what are a few of those games out of those spotlights that really have you intrigued?
Well, I'm really interested in the North Crowley-Lovejoy game. This is a game that Lovejoy lost last year. I actually picked Lovejoy to win the state championship this year, so my hopes and dreams are kind of like hanging on their success. So we'll see if they have gotten tougher in the offseason, and can that lead to them to AT&T Stadium and in December. I'm also really interested to see how Bridgeland deals with Shadow Creek. Bridgeland to me is a team that's really coming up in the Houston area. A lot of talent on that team, but Shadow Creek is absolutely loaded. Can Bridgeland match that talent stride for stride, and will they be able to pull what I would consider as an upset?
Yeah, well, again, a couple of very exciting games that we'll see tonight, but of course we had some exciting games last night as we'll jump right into some highlights as we take a look. Brock versus Wimberley, as that was a very exciting game. We jump right in. How about this, an 80-yard opening drive for Brock, and that is capped off by a Brody Woods 1-yard rush. The quarterback able to punch it in to get Brock on the board first. Still in the first quarter, Wimberley would respond. That's a nice throw by Cody Stover, able to find the wide receiver junior Nolan Wada. That's 9 yards for the touchdown. Still in, or going into the second quarter, this is going to be Cody Stover again as he starts to heat up, and that is a 42-yard connection with Noah Birdsong to get Wimberley up 14-7, staying in the second. This is going to be Nolan Wida again, 33 yards from Cody Stover, and Wimberley up 21-7 at the halftime break as we jump ahead into the third, 21-7. This is going to be a nice play by the junior quarterback Brody Woods, right on the money to Colt Matlock, 34 yards to get Brock back on the board. That made it 21-14 as again this keeps going back and forth as this is going to be a beautiful throw again by Brody Woods. That is right on the dot to Carson Finney, 30 yards that time, and that would tie the game at the 21 apiece going into the fourth quarter. Wimberley would take advantage as that's a beautiful catch right there, as that is going to be Brock on the board for a touchdown. Tyler Butler, and here's a chance for Brock to tie up the game, but it is blocked as Wimberley would hold on to their 1-point lead late in the fourth quarter, and it would be Cody Stover, who we saw make a couple of really nice throws. This time he's going to use his feet as he weaves in throughout traffic, and that would ice the game. 11-yard touchdown run for Cody Stover as this one went back and forth, and Wimberley ends up with the win. 35-27. Jared Robinson on the call last night as we go to him for his instant reaction.
All right, recap of Brock versus Wimberley here. Dave Campbell's Texan Live. Jared Robinson, Jordan Weeks, Cade Stover. 35-27. Wimberley got the victory. Awesome game. Brody Woods for Brock, the real deal. Everybody who curious what they were going to get, Brody Woods is absolutely a stud for Brock. Wimberley comes in with all of the momentum, 104 points scored total. Brock comes in, immediately turns around, stops Wimberley, gets the touchdown, takes the lead. Wimberley, big victory, though, in the final of it. Cody Stover, 5 total touchdowns for Cody, 3 through the air, 2 on the ground for him. And, guys, you just saw a Wimberley team that lasted a little bit longer, and they just became a situation where you really saw number 2, the quarterback for Wimberley, Cody Stover, take the football game over in the late part of that football game.
Yeah, it was really cool seeing him, out there, really becoming a big leader, a big role in this Wimberley offense. He's throwing the ball everywhere, and having Noah Birdsong, having great plays there to get those 3rd and 14 first downs to really keep the momentum going for the Wimberley Texans, and then having Cody come in there and really just put the nail in the coffin with another touchdown to get us 8 ahead.
Yeah, 2 3rd and 14 last couple drives for the Texans. Noah Birdsong comes up with them. Grit, determination. Cody Stover was fantastic tonight. Wimberley gets the victory over the Brock Eagles right here from UMHB. Again, Jared Robinson, Jordan Weeks, Cade Stover here on the call with you. Hope everybody has a great night.
Well, that game had a little bit of everything, a couple of really good programs that are on the right track. Your thoughts from that win last night for Wimberley?
Well, I thought it was a big win for Wimberley. They made it to AT&T Stadium last year to compete for a state championship. They need to win these type of games against teams who will also compete for a state championship, and Brock was there last year as well. A few players really jumped out to me. You wouldn't hear about all these Stover highlights without big Caden Romo clearing paths for him. He's an Air Force commitment. He's a technically sound offensive lineman who I really like. And Noah Birdsong is a huge tight end / wide receiver target for Stover. He looks like a freak on the football field. And Ty Thames, he's just like a blue-collar hard worker on both sides of the ball, running back, linebacker. But credit to Brock. They stepped up against Wimberley here in competition. They stepped up a classification. Keep in mind, they started out 0-4 last season and still made it to the state championship game. They test themselves in the non-district schedule, and I think the Eagles will be back as this year progresses.
Again, a very impressive win for Wimberley. We got some more highlights coming up on the other side of the break, and Greg, it's football season again when the DCTF crew is on the road. We'll take you in another edition of the Dave Campbell's Texas Football vlog, coming up on the other side of the break. This is Texas Football Tonight.
There's only one state in the nation with 13 Division I FBS programs, and there's only one podcast that talks about every single one of them. Introducing the Dave Campbell's Republic of Football podcast, the most complete coverage of the Lone Star State. Join host Ishmael Johnson, Carter Yates, and Mallory Hartley live on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. for the biggest news and weekly previews on all Texas FBS programs. Can't catch every college football game on Saturdays? We've got you covered with recap episodes Sunday mornings with senior writer Mike Craven checking in. Subscribe everywhere you get your podcasts, including Spotify and Apple. Strap in with your host Ishmael Johnson, producer Mallory Hartley, senior writer Mike Craven, and college writer Carter Yates for a ride that'll last from now throughout the season.
Need your daily football fix? Look no further than Texas Football Today, the daily live show from the people that bring you Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Every weekday at noon, Greg Tepper and Ashley Pickle bring you the latest news, deep dive analysis, insightful interviews with big-name guests, and more. And if you ever miss an episode, you can subscribe to the Texas Football Today podcast to keep up with all the fun. Don't miss Texas Football Today every weekday at noon at texasfootball.com, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and subscribe to Texas Football Today wherever you get your podcasts. Nobody covers Texas high school football like Tep and Step, the premium high school football podcast from Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Dig deep into the sport in every corner of the state with high school football insider Matt Stepp and managing editor Greg Tepper, with game previews, unique insights, and bold predictions. Get Tep and Step by becoming a Dave Campbell's Texas Football subscriber at texasfootball.com/subscribe.
We might not be good at many things, but there is one thing that we crushed, and that's naming a stinking podcast. WTF. Yes, it's exactly what you're thinking. Women talking football. Oh, you thought it meant something else? You might be right. Tune in every Thursday at 2 p.m. as me, Ashley Pickle, and everyone's favorite Mal pal, Mallory Hartley, bring you in-depth analysis of every region of the Lone Star State, talk ball with reporters across Texas, get the real scoop from coaches' wives, and all the other nonsense that comes along with the two of us being allowed to talk into a microphone. Join the party Thursdays at 2 o'clock on the Dave Campbell's Texas Football YouTube page.
Welcome back into Dave Campbell's Texas Football tonight, and let's not waste any time. Let's jump right into the highlights between Klein Cain and Cy Falls. We're going to pick up the action here in the first quarter. You're going to see senior Klein Cain running back Darius Rogers dash 66 yards for a touchdown to put Klein Cain up 7-0. But they weren't finished yet. Junior wide receiver Max Hendrick hauls in a 63-yard touchdown pass here from senior quarterback Isaac Mooring, and Klein Cain goes up 14-0. Cy Falls would answer back later on in the first half, trailing 20-0 here. You're going to see senior quarterback Kai Calicote with a 15-yard touchdown run to put the Eagles on the board 20-7. We're going to pick it up in the second quarter here, and you're going to see Mooring roll out to his left to find his tight end. That's Grayson Dunbar on a 17-yard touchdown catch. It's going to be 34-7 at the half. Picking up the action in the third quarter here, Cy Falls is going to try to match and get back in this game. Chase Farrell with a 40-yard touchdown catch from senior quarterback Kai Calicote. Again, that's his second touchdown of the game. 41-14 here, and you're going to see a 21-yard touchdown plunge from senior running back Trey Morris. He's committed to Army. 43-20 here late in the fourth quarter. You have Klein Cain, Zach Johnson in for relief from Mooring. He's going to find Dunbar again for another touchdown. They're going to go up 50-20. They're going to go on to win this game 50-27. They were really out of the break on this one. And let's hear from Eric Folkerts out at Pridgeon Stadium has more.
For Texan Live, I am Eric Folkerts along with my partner Jake Landry, and tonight we were at Ken Pridgeon Stadium in Cy-Fair ISD for the Klein Cain Hurricanes and the Cy Falls Golden Eagles. We expected an offensive shootout, and we got 77 points on the board. Klein Cain jumped out to a 20-0 lead before Cy Falls responded, but then Klein Cain put another 2 touchdowns on the board, taking the lead at 34-7 into the half and cruising to a 50-27 win here tonight at Pridgeon Stadium. For Klein Cain, Jake, we had quite a few offensive performances tonight, didn't we?
Yep, a lot of big plays. Isaac Mooring, the quarterback, 4 touchdowns in the first half before he was taken out for the rest of the game. And then the tight end, the big man, Grayson Dunbar, putting up 3 catches for 3 touchdowns.
For Cy Falls, it seemed like turnovers and penalties hurt them quite a bit as we saw them drop 1 touchdown pass. But Cy Falls, their quarterback, Calicote, did a great job tonight, but their workhorse tonight was Trey Morris.
Yeah, no shortage of big play opportunities missed for Cy Falls, but Trey Morris was the workhorse. A big 28-yard touchdown in the third quarter to bring some hope, but overall they just couldn't finish the job.
Both teams moved to 2-1 as they head into their bye week, heading into their district play. Klein Cain takes this one 50-27. I am Eric Folkerts with my partner Jake Landry for TexanLive.com.
Well, Klein Cain jumped out early and never really looked back. That was a very convincing win for them last night.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with what Klein Cain is bringing to the table. Mm-hmm. They have a young team. You know, Blaine Bullard, the wide receiver there for Klein Cain, very impressive. Defensive back A.J. Kraft jumped out to me. Mooring went out with an injury towards the end of the second quarter. I don't think that he was seriously injured. I think it was just a precaution. Mm-hmm. Zach Johnson, a sophomore quarterback, came in relief. He didn't miss a beat. You know, he was really impressive down the stretch. Cy Falls, I mean, they're a team that's going to rally. They have running back Trey Morris. He's really impressive in the middle of the field. He has enough speed to get to the outside. They got big offensive lineman Samir Camacho as well, a guy who's committed to Maryland. He picked Maryland over UTSA. But you're going to notice a trend with me tonight, Nick. I love to talk about the big uglies in the middle of the of the offensive line. Yep. Gibson Pyle, the Nebraska commit for Klein Kane, big number 77 playing left tackle. He was destroying folks all night long, pancake after pancake. Big Gibson Pyle is a guy who I love.
All right, well, hey, well, you're talking about all these commitments, of course. That's why Dave Campbell's is your one-stop shop for everything Texas football. You've got so much knowledge, so many people with so much knowledge on pretty much every aspect of this sport. And, of course, they're always scattered throughout the state as we get into the heart of the high school football season. Let's take a look at a new edition of the Dave Campbell's vlog where you get to look behind the scenes of what it takes to get all this coverage.
What's up, y'all? It's week 2 already? That's right. Time flies when you're having fun, and there's no more fun in the world than Texas high school football season. It's Thursday, and I'm in the parking lot of Midlothian ISD Stadium, where we got a Thursday tilt between the Midlothian Panthers hosting the Ennis Lions. Can Midlothian get back up after an upset loss last week to Seguin? While Ennis, after a close loss to Waxahachie, looks to even their record at 1-1. Should be a fun game. Our guy Greg Powers is going to be here as well. It's going to be a big time on Thursday in Ellis County and a great week of Texas high school football.
Got us a little pregame here. Midlothian Panthers and the Ennis Lions down there. A little Thursday night high school football in Midlothian. I'm watching a legend at work here. It's Greg Powers feasting on Chicken Express.
Dreams do come true.
Chicken E right here.
Express in the Midlothian press box.
Let's
Thank
go.
you, Midlothian.
Little behind the scenes. Headed to the studio. There's another pickle. Are we excited? Are we ready to go for week 2?
We're ready for quad bots.
Seth, Mallory, good?
Oh, yeah.
Let's go. Aiden's ready.
Yep.
All right, y'all, heading west on I-20, headed to Abilene, where the Crosstown Showdown awaits at Shotwell Stadium between Abilene and Abilene Cooper. Should be a good one. Ranger Hill is right there in the distance, which is kind of the halfway point between Fort Worth and Abilene. And hey, Shotwell Stadium opening up their brand new fancy press box tonight, so we'll get a good look at that as well while we're on the way. It's Friday in the state of Texas, and that means it's football time.
Shout out to Coach Garfield, Abilene AD, for the swag bag and the hospitality here at Shotwell Stadium. The press box is brand new. This is the new media room. Very nice. We may take you guys on a tour of the press box a little bit later. It's still under construction. The elevator's not working, so I had to hoof it up the stairs, but after eating Whataburger, it was good to work that off. So we're about 90 minutes out from kickoff here in Abilene. Getting a look there at the new press box here at Shotwell Stadium. Very beautiful. And we got pregame going on. The Abilene Cooper Cougars right in front of me. The Abilene Eagles down there in white.
Leaving on a jet plane. That's right, y'all. That plane right there is taking your boy to Houston. H-Town, here I come.
A little lunch at one of my favorite spots in H-Town near Hobby Airport. Little Spanky's Pizza. From the field here at the fabulous Berry Center. Always a beautiful sight as we have Cypress Bridgeland. Katie Tompkins on a great Saturday night matchup at H-Town. The Bridgeland Bears are in the house. We're here in a commercial break. Trevor Bullard on the call. It's 14-7 Bridgeland right now. Saturday evening in Cy-Fair. We're going to get back on the call and call the rest of this game. I'm here at Hobby Airport in Houston on Sunday. September 3rd before Labor Day, wrapping up the Week 2 video blog. It was a great week in Houston. More great football and great content coming up this week on TexasFootball.com. We'll see you for Week 3 of the Texas high school football season. Maybe a day early on the blog next week. We'll see. Stay tuned.
I'm here covering my first ever college game for Dave Campbell's Texas Football, and I'm outside of TD-ECU Stadium at the University of Houston right now for the Cougars' first game as a member of the Big 12 Conference. You can see behind me, the students are getting after it. There's a lot of excitement in the air. Let's hope it translates on the field. There's only one state in the nation with 13 Division I FBS programs, and there's only one podcast that talks about every single one of them. Introducing the Dave Campbell's Republic of Football podcast, the most complete coverage of the Lone Star State. Join host Ishmael Johnson, Carter Yates, and Mallory Hartley live on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. for the biggest news and weekly previews on all Texas FBS programs. Can't catch every college football game on Saturdays? We've got you covered with recap episodes Sunday mornings with senior writer Mike Craven checking in. Subscribe everywhere you get your podcasts, including Spotify and Apple. Strap in with your host Ishmael Johnson, producer Mallory Hartley, senior writer Mike Craven, and college writer Carter Yates for a ride that'll last from now throughout the season.
Need your daily football fix? Look no further than Texas Football Today, the daily live show from the people that bring you Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Every weekday at noon, Greg Tepper and Ashley Pickle bring you the latest news, deep dive analysis, insightful interviews with big name guests, and more. And if you ever miss an episode, you can subscribe to the Texas Football Today podcast to keep up with all the fun. Don't miss Texas Football Today every weekday at noon at TexasFootball.com, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and subscribe to Texas Football Today wherever you get your podcasts. Nobody covers Texas high school football like Tep and Step, the premium high school football podcast from Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Dig deep into the sport in every corner of the state with high school football insider Matt Stepp and managing editor Greg Tepper, with game previews, unique insights, and bold predictions. Get Tep and Step by becoming a Dave Campbell's Texas Football subscriber at TexasFootball.com/subscribe.
We might not be good at many things, but there is one thing that we crushed, and that's naming a stinking podcast. WTF. Yes, it's exactly what you're thinking. Women talking football. Oh, you thought it meant something else? You might be right. Tune in every Thursday at 2 p.m. as me, Ashley Pickle, and everyone's favorite Mal pal, Mallory Hartley, bring you in-depth analysis of every region of the Lone Star State, talk ball with reporters across Texas, get the real scoop from coaches' wives, and all the other nonsense that comes along with the two of us being allowed to talk into a microphone. Join the party Thursdays at 2 o'clock on the Dave Campbell's Texas Football YouTube page.
Welcome back inside Dave Campbell's Texas Football Tonight. And Greg, last week got into a fantasy football league, did some drafting. Noticed the running backs don't go as high as maybe they used to, but I don't know. I'm still a fan of a really good running back, and I think you've got a list of some pretty good ones here in the state of Texas.
Well, it's time for this week's Cruton Corner.
Yeah,
I'm
there we
biased,
go.
but this is my favorite segment on the show.
Oh.
Why? Usually because I'm in it, first and foremost. But if you're doing a fantasy football draft around Texas high school football, running backs are going to go much higher. And at the top of that list in the state this year, you have Taylor Tatum, Longview running back who's committed to the University of Oklahoma. Taylor Tatum holds the record for most touchdowns in a season at Longview. Longview, one of the most historic programs in Texas high school football. He was the Offensive District Player of the Year, THSCA Super Elite. He's a guy that brings a little bit of everything to the table, and he had a wealth of offers at the time that he made his decision to commit to Oklahoma. And I think that he's going to fit into that Jeff Lebby offense really well. As a matter of fact, he's more of a ground and pound type of guy, likes to get tough yards in the middle of the field, and he likes to be able to, after he gets through that initial contact, burst to the outside to pick up huge chunks of yardage. I also think that he's going to progress as a pass catcher once he arrives in Norman and gets ingratiated into that offensive scheme. At number 2 on the list, you're going to see Caden Durham from Duncanville. Caden Durham is a guy who led Duncanville to a state championship, gave Reginald Samples that elusive state championship ring last year. He also hoisted the trophy for being the offensive MVP in that game. 279 rushing attempts throughout his career, 2,609 yards, 43 touchdowns. You can see the graphic here. But what I love about Caden Durham is his 4.25 40-yard dash speed. He's a 10.25 100-meter guy, so that speed is legit. He's one of the fastest guys in the entire country, not only in the state of Texas. We're going to look further down the list. You got James Peoples at number 3, committed to Ohio State. Number 4, you're going to see like your first big bruiser on the list. That's Kedron Young from Lufkin. He's going up to Notre Dame to play his college football. He's a guy that would really rather run over you than run around you. And Jacoby Williams from East Texas. He's a very quick athlete for Beckville in East Texas who's committed to Texas Tech. I like his future as a running back within that Red Raiders offensive scheme.
Well, it's always good to hear, a mention of Notre Dame, and they get a nice running back there. But one of the guys that stood out was number 8 on that list, Nate Palmer. You were talking about the top guy, Taylor Tatum, hoping that he kind of evolves as a pass catcher. It looks like Palmer already has a little bit of that in his game. I believe a TCU commit as well.
Yeah, no doubt. Nate Palmer was a guy that you guys got to cover a lot here on week 1. Texas football tonight as Decatur picked up a big week 1 victory. Palmer's a guy who I really like, and I think as you're looking at that top 10 list, he's probably a name that sometimes is overlooked that shouldn't be. He's as good as any player on the list.
All right, well, there we go. That is the Cruton Corner with the man himself, Greg Powers, in studio. But, hey, let's get right into it. We've got some good games, and right now we've got Eaton and Hebron. And Eaton is threatening as they get just inside the 10 here in the first quarter. We saw, of course, Eaton take the lead a little bit earlier when we were looking at the vlog, but we'll dive right in now to that call.
Look out, but what a great job after the catch by Armour. Drive stays alive for Hebron.
Design QB run, cuts it in all the way in for 6. Second rushing touchdown of the year for P.J. Creighton. As the Hawks pull within 1 with 2:51 to go here in the first quarter.
Outstanding job by the offensive line, and boy, this Hebron offense bouncing back again even after the penalties. That's a good-looking drive right there, partner, answering the Eaton score.
All right, so you see Hebron right there is about to tie the game with the point after touchdown attempt. And that one is good. All right, so we got a 14-14 tie early on in the first quarter, and these are a couple of teams that got off to some good starts as we take a look at the comparison. And how about Eaton? 218 rush yards per game, a 2-0 start. And that's a fairly new program as well, and they've gotten off to a really good start this year.
You saw Sheldon Armour there setting up a Hebron touchdown. Yep. Patrick Creighton was under center. It was going to be interesting to see what they did. They split time at quarterback last week. Patrick Creighton and Evan Enderlin, they both got snaps. So I was interested to see how this game kind of unwound itself. And you really touched on a key point here. Eaton, they were a really young team last year. They have a lot coming back this year, including BYU commit at quarterback, Noah Lugo. Their 3 main receivers were young guys on the team. Now they're old guys on the team, and Lugo can depend upon those guys and get them the football consistently. They struggled with drops at times last season. This season, I think that they really need to step up, and they have a chance. They were a 4-6 team last year. I'm penciling them in to the playoff mix this year. I kind of like what Coach Miller's squad is bringing to the table.
So, I mean, we've already seen 28 total points in the first quarter. Do you think that's going to be a barn burner? Is that trend going to continue throughout the night?
Well, I mean, it looks like the scoring's not going to stop. Hebron's usually like a defensive-minded team, but, you know, when you have a guy on the other sidelines that can sling the ball the way Lugo does, I think that you're going to see an open scoring game.
Here's another one of our spotlight games, North Shore and Westfield. As that kick is up and good. So again, this is we got some very exciting games, and you take a look at this North Shore team, and they're off to a very good start on the season. And again, we take a look. This is my favorite segment. I mean, I love Cruton Corner, but the quad box. This is great. We get all this action as we'll take a look. Again, North Shore, we were talking about that game just a second ago. But, I mean, look at these numbers from this program. And that is just really a blue blood, I guess you can talk about Texas high school football.
Yeah, I'm glad that we got to the highlights earlier there on the list of games. I thought maybe this is one that could possibly get away from Spring Westfield. Last year, the game ended up 55-25, so I was hoping that Westfield was able to step back up and make it a close game this year.
Uh-oh, here we go. This is Hebron with the interception, and they're going to be inside the 10.
Nehemiah Beatty there with the interception.
Wow, so a quick turnaround. Eaton was up by 7. Hebron responds, and now they have a chance to take the lead with that interception. They're inside the 10. As, hey, here we go. We keep them going. We got some live looks here as we got Lovejoy and North Crowley, another one of our spotlighted games for this evening. And you were talking about this, a very exciting matchup for you.
Yeah, I really like this matchup. I was really interested to see what Lovejoy is going to do. For those that may not know, star wide receiver Parker Livingstone is not playing in this game. He's out for this game. So they're going to have to turn to some younger wide receivers to step up in his absence. Guys like Dalen McCutcheon and Jalen Lott.
There's going to be the running back. A nice run to the corner. I think he's in. That's going to be a touchdown for Lovejoy.
Lovejoy lost that game at North Crowley last year. You know, they're looking to return the favor this year as North Crowley now travels to Lucas to play this game. And I think I love the lights. The light show that's going on at Lovejoy.
Yeah, you don't see that very often in high school facilities, but yeah, that's very cool. So Lovejoy off to a good start. As again, we'll take a look at Hebron and Eaton. We'll jump right back into the audio on that broadcast.
Williams commanded that drive, or majority of it.
Still out there for this play as well.
Design QB run to the right side, slowed down, and then going down is Creighton back at the 7 or 8 yard line. So he's going to lose about 4 on the play to set up 3rd and goal now from the 8 for the Hawks.
That's Joseph Frazier, a backup linebacker who turned it in, the junior linebacker. Turned it in and did a nice job of turning. I'm sorry, Thomas. Did a really nice job of turning that play. PJ had nowhere to go.
That's back-to-back plays by Frazier. Let's see what happens. Can the Eagles turn him away here? 3rd down and goal. Blitz coming. Creighton gets out of a hog tie. Keeps his feet. Keeps on running. Look at him go to the left side. Puts on the Jets.
Oh, my.
Bowls his way in for the touchdown. 2nd rushing touchdown for Creighton, as he gets in from 8 yards out with some Houdini-like moves on the way.
If that doesn't excite you, Thomas, nothing will. And 1, 2, maybe 3 defenders down.
A very eventful last couple of minutes for Hebron as now they take the lead. That was an explosive one right there. We were just talking about running backs. That's a nice play.
Love to hear the call there from Thomas Lee, too. He was fired up on that touchdown run. And, you know, we've got a hot one going in between Bridgeland and Shadow Creek. Wow. And let's go out to Freedom Field to hear from Trevor Bullard.
I think, we have Trevor right now, and, well, that's a very exciting game. That's a 17-6 lead for Bridgeland, a couple of 2-0 teams. Trevor, just kind of give us your synopsis of that first half.
Well, you know, it was interesting because Bridgeland got the ball to start. They throw a pick on their first pass of the game, and then 3 plays later, they pick it off at the, 1 yard line, Chase? Chase Parisher, our stat guy. 1 yard line, and they go on a 9-play, 99-yard drive, first touchdown of the game, and Bears looking great. They were up 17-0, but the thing I'll say, Shadow Creek got a touchdown at the end of the first half, a 50-yarder, and they do get the ball to start the second half. So this game's, people watching probably thinking, man, Bears looking good, but Shark's not out of it yet.
Ja'Cory Watson is a player who I really like. Trevor, how's he been looking under center for the Sharks?
Throwing the ball a little rough. He's 2 for 8, but running the ball, got 30 yards rushing, broke off a big 26-yarder. So he's kind of the bright spot offensively for the Sharks, but did get the big touchdown throw at the end of the first half.
Talk about Bridgeland a little bit. And to me, this was an interesting game, Trevor, because I thought Bridgeland is one of these teams that's on the rise in the Houston area. This is like a heavyweight knockout type of battle. Does Bridgeland have what it takes to possibly sustain this into the second half?
The thing interesting about them is they got a 2-quarterback system, whether it be Jet Lewis or Tyler Beagle. They each got Lewis got a touchdown pass. Beagle's got a touchdown pass. So it's kind of pick your poison with them. Because last week was calling the game against Tompkins, and they kind of did the same thing. Maybe Lewis would be a little slow, and then Beagle would come in and throw 5 or 6 straight completions, and it'd be easy. So, Jet Lewis looked a little not as great at the end of the first half. So maybe they throw in Beagle, and he's looked great. He's 5 for 5, got a touchdown. So I think they got a really good chance to keep this going into the second half.
I like the matchup too with Oscar Nana and the Shadow Creek defensive secondary, which is loaded with stars, right? You got Kobe Sellers and Maurice Williams and all those guys out there to try to match up with him.
Yeah, and they've done a pretty good job containing Nana. He's got 3 catches. You look at that and you go, that's pretty good. But he's only got about 20 yards receiving. Last week, he went over 100, had a kickoff return for a touchdown. So they've done a good job containing him. The thing is that they got another good wideout out there, and Mason Simmons, who at the end of that first drive, the 99-yarder, he had 3 straight catches for 56 yards and a touchdown. So it's pick your poison on out wide as well.
Put it into perspective for us. If Bridgeland wins this game, what's it mean in the Houston landscape?
Well, I think this is a cross-regional matchup in Region 3 versus Region 2. So the only way they'd ever see each other again would be in a state championship game, which that's wild. But I think this is a statement, in Region 2 in the Houston area at least. You talk about Westfield, usually talking about Klein Collins, but Bridgeland, a little bit of the shine after they had Connor Wigman and they were the toast of the town. But this would get them back into that higher echelon in Region 2 of Houston.
That was Trevor Bullard out at Freedom Field. Very interesting matchup out there between the Sharks and the Bears.
Yeah, and that one was a slugfest last year in a rematch this year. That one is going so far. As we take a look now, we've got this game was a bit delayed, a lightning delay, but I think we got a score there. It's Klein Collins and Summer Creek, and this is a big showdown here.
Yeah, definitely. Summer Creek is a team that I think that it looked really interesting to me, and that was number 25 dashing into the end zone there for a touchdown.
All right, so we see Summer Creek opening the scoring in that contest, but again, the game we were just talking about, Bridgeland and Shadow Creek, you heard Trevor touching on just a bit. That was a very exciting game last year as we take a look at how that game went down a year ago.
4th down and 1. Washington straight up the middle. Washington bounces off a tackle. Washington's going to take this one to the house. Touchdown Shadow Creek from 31 yards out. Right back to Wooden. He's bouncing for the far side. Wooden past the 15. He's going to score. Touchdown Bears.
Halftimes take a century and a half.
Watson all by himself. Going deep over the middle. Caught in stride. Slips past the tackle. He's going to be headed for the end zone. Touchdown Shadow Creek. Caleb Washington. Pollard play fake. Picked off. Threw it right to him. Might be a pick 6. It is a pick 6. Touchdown Shadow Creek. Taking it back to the house. It's Brian Nelson.
And there's Brian Nelson once again. He's been so stingy in the secondary so far. But
here for Shadow Creek. Watson. Rolling here to the near side and has a man open over the middle. Too easy. Touchdown Shadow Creek. Wide open. It's Christian Serial.
A great job by Serial. He knew his quarterback was in trouble. A couple of plays. Go ahead and get him going.
So after Lewis has passed to McKeska, they hand it off here to the far side. Wooden lost the ball. Recovered by Shadow Creek at the 41.
And that was big Robert Edmondson in there on the strip.
Jones in motion. Straight up the middle. Nope. Play fake. Wide open. Touchdown.
Great pull there from Ja'Cory Watson. He saw that pass rush coming in. He knew his ball carrier was going to be in trouble. He pulls it.
.com 35 to 6, 3rd down and 6. As Watson goes straight up the middle on the read option. Watson spinning his way and then lunging forward inside the 35. Attempted this year, they're 1 for 1. Snap down, kick up, looks good, is good. Make it now 2 for 2, and it's a 38-6 lead for the Sharks. Looking deep, I mean first down. Big time catch by Jonathan Nelson. Down and goal, man in motion. Rolling. One-handed pick, my goodness. Shadow Creek takes over.
Fun game last year as we take a look at the score. Again, a reminder, the score right now is Bridgeland a 17-6 lead over Shadow Creek at the half, but that was a very convincing win a season ago.
Reversal of fortune so far in the game this year. You can see Shadow Creek brings a heavy defensive presence. Maurice Williams has been running that defense now, I think, for 3 years. I mean, he was on the radar when he was a freshman. He's committed to Houston. He's the highest rated commitment to Houston since Ed Oliver.
Oh, wow.
So to put that in perspective, he's that talented of a player. And Bridgeland's able to move the ball more effectively this year, and I think that's the key, you know. And again, I'm going to fall in line with my theme. I love the offensive lineman, big Jonte Newman, 6'4", 290-pounder with offers from all over the country. Alabama, Texas, Texas A&M have already offered him. He's one of the best players in the entire state, and he's just a junior.
As again, we take a look at some of the other games in action. Summer Creek, again, 7-0. We saw them score to open up the scoring against Klein Collins. We got a couple of other games, but we'll dive into those a little bit later. We'll take a pause here as, again, we start to get these games rocking and rolling. And
Fast and furious now.
Some very exciting plays going on. We'll be back on Dave Campbell's Texas Football Tonight.
There's only one state in the nation with 13 Division I FBS programs, and there's only one podcast that talks about every single one of them. Introducing the Dave Campbell's Republic of Football podcast, the most complete coverage of the Lone Star State. Join host Ishmael Johnson, Carter Yates, and Mallory Hartley live on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. for the biggest news and weekly previews on all Texas FBS programs. Can't catch every college football game on Saturdays? We've got you covered with recap episodes Sunday mornings with senior writer Mike Craven checking in. Subscribe everywhere you get your podcasts, including Spotify and Apple. Strap in with your host Ishmael Johnson, producer Mallory Hartley, senior writer Mike Craven, and college writer Carter Yates for a ride that'll last from now throughout the season.
Need your daily football fix? Look no further than Texas Football Today, the daily live show from the people that bring you Dave Campbell's Texas football. Every weekday at noon, Greg Tepper and Ashley Pickle bring you the latest news, deep dive analysis, insightful interviews with big name guests, and more. And if you ever miss an episode, you can subscribe to the Texas Football Today podcast to keep up with all the fun. Don't miss Texas Football Today every weekday at noon at texasfootball.com, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and subscribe to Texas Football Today wherever you get your podcasts. Nobody covers Texas high school football like Tep and Step, the premium high school football podcast from Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Dig deep into the sport in every corner of the state with high school football insider Matt Stepp and managing editor Greg Tepper, with game previews, unique insights, and bold predictions. Get Tep and Step by becoming a Dave Campbell's Texas Football subscriber at texasfootball.com/subscribe.
We might not be good at many things, but there is one thing that we crushed, and that's naming a stinking podcast. WTF. Yes, it's exactly what you're thinking. Women talking football. Oh, you thought it meant something else? You might be right. Tune in every Thursday at 2 p.m. as me, Ashley Pickle, and everyone's favorite Mal pal, Mallory Hartley, bring you in-depth analysis of every region of the Lone Star State, talk ball with reporters across Texas, get the real scoop from coaches' wives, and all the other nonsense that comes along with the two of us being allowed to talk into a microphone. Join the party Thursdays at 2 o'clock on the Dave Campbell's Texas Football YouTube page.
games are in full swing as we are right in the middle of week number 3, Texas high school football. We've got all the action for you, including some highlights. Let's dive right into a pretty good game right now. We got Tompkins versus Katy in the first quarter. This is going to be Wyatt Young, the senior quarterback, takes the snap. And nice little shuffle right there, and the throw connecting with the running back, Caleb Blocker. And that makes it 7-0 Tompkins early on in the first as we look ahead to the second quarter. Now Katy has the ball and a chance to tie the game, and this is going to be Romel Jordan, 13 yards to the house, and that would tie the game at 7 apiece, able to get to the outside and into the corner of the end zone for the tie game. Sticking in the second quarter, Katy has it again. This is going to be the junior quarterback taking it from under center. A little play action. Look at the footwork there and able to find his man. That's a beautiful catch right there. Catch and throw. Luke Carter, the tight end. That makes it 14-7 Katy. Sticking in the second quarter, this time it's going to be a bit of a longer throw by the junior quarterback as he's going to take a couple of steps back and a 35-yard bomb as that's going to be caught by Colton Sanders, who takes it to the house, dragging some defenders in, and Katy has a 21-7 lead over Tompkins at the halftime break. So that one exciting so far. Anything surprising when you look at that score?
No, because Katy got beat last week.
Yeah.
I don't remember Gary Joseph getting beat back-to-back very often.
No.
This is going to be a hungry squad coming into this game. It is a crosstown rivalry game, so I'm interested to see if Katy Tompkins can get up off the mat. Tight end touchdowns.
Yeah.
Luke Carter, he's a UNT commit. Every time I look up, it seems like Katy has an elite tight end, and this year is no special case. This is another guy who you can look to in the red zone to do something special.
And we're looking live right now. We got North Shore and Westfield, as that is a 21-3 lead for North Shore. But it looks like Westfield threatening at the moment here in the second quarter.
Yeah, I'm hoping for a close game here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm like to see Westfield right here. Look at that. Find him in the end
nice
zone.
catch.
It looks like he caught it for the touchdown. That's number 21. I believe that's Taji Atkins pulling in the touchdown pass there. Taji Atkins is a recent player who picked up an offer from Boise State, so he's like a D1 recruit himself. And I love to see Raekwon Bell out there, big number 71 at left tackle.
That's a nice.
Just going to throw it right back into the offensive line theme.
Yeah, and that's a nice touch pass there. But let's get into another game that we were keeping our eyes on, College Station and Temple. As we take a look, this, of course, a game last year where it was very exciting, came down to the wire. College Station got the 45-35 win. So again, you take a look at a couple of those numbers, and that was a very impressive showing offensively for College Station a year ago.
Look at that number up there. You see it?
Yep.
Zero rush yards for Temple versus College Station last year. I don't know that the College Station defense is better this year than they were last year, a year where they marched to the state championship game, but they're pretty good.
Yeah.
They're pretty impressive, and I think the College Station offense by the end of the year could be better than they were last year because Arrington Maiden is a year older. Aiden Martinez-Brown is a year older.
Yep.
So we'll just see how Temple was able to deal with it this year.
Yeah, we'll take a look at how that score is progressing this year, but let's again take a look at that exciting game from a year ago.
It's a 30-yard field goal. And Young, just barely got it over the crossbar. So Connor Young punts this one away, and it's blocked. The Wildcats send it high in the air, and they pick it up at their own 30. Strutting away for the touchdown is Christian Tutson. Wildcats score the first touchdown of the night. Maiden looking to throw, pressure coming, gets away from it, heading forward. He's got the first down and more. Arrington Maiden into the open field. Touchdown, College Station. The junior quarterback turns nothing. Looking to throw, steps up, looking deep downfield, wide open touchdown, A.J. Tisdale. What a catch and what a throw from Arrington Maiden. Here we go. Second half is underway in College Station. Tisdale fields it at the goal line. A.J. Tisdale looking for room, and he's got some. A.J. Tisdale into the open field. He's at midfield, inside the 35. He'll go all the way. Wisconsin, you've got yourself a dog. Touchdown, College Station. Will send this one away. And now Temple with their first possession. Fielded at the 5 by Christian Tutson. Tutson going the other way. Christian Tutson, one man to beat, gets past him. Back-to-back kickoff returns in the second half. 95 yards, touchdown Temple, down the sideline. Touchdown, College Station. Here for Temple, 3rd and 10. Rumfield, low snap, looking to throw. He's looking deep for Harrison Pilot, and he's got him in stride. Touchdown, Temple. Rumfield looking to throw, stepping into it, fires over the middle, wide open. Mikhail Harrison Pilot looking for touchdown number 2, and he's got it. Kiss him goodbye, Temple. 2nd and goal from the 1. Quarterback keeper again, and this time Maiden gets in for the touchdown. Rumfield takes his time, pressure coming. And he throws intercepted again. A.J. Tisdale, he threw it right to him. A.J. Tisdale down the sideline. Pick 6, College Station.
Well, a very exciting game a year ago. We'll check on that score in just a little bit, but right now we've got a special guest. We've got Dave Campbell's own Matt Stepp joining us now. All right, so before we get into the game you're covering right now, I noticed on Twitter that you were in Amarillo just a little bit ago, earlier this week. I spent a couple of years there in Amarillo working for a hockey team. I just got to know, did you partake in the 72-ounce steak challenge, and did you win?
I did not do the 72-ounce steak challenge. I did get a 12-ounce steak and enjoyed it quite a bit. A lot of hospitality there in Amarillo, and it was good to get up there and get to the Panhandle and catch some football last night.
Hey, Stepp, happy to have you on tonight, man. We kicked off the season doing play-by-play in color over at the McKinney game, and now we're here on Dave Campbell's Texas football tonight, talking a little ball, man. I couldn't be any happier to do that with you. I got to ask you, man, about Frisco, Emerson, and Panther Creek. 2 new programs virtually in the FISD. How do they look? It looks like it's a great game.
Yeah, this has been a really competitive game. Emerson coming into the game ranked number 4 in the state in our Dave Campbell's poll in 5A Division II. And they started out hot. Mike Hawkins with a touchdown pass and a touchdown run early. Thanks Emerson out to a 13-0 lead. And all of a sudden, underdog Panther Creek, the Class 4A program, gets it rolling, and they've scored, they took a 21-13 lead. Emerson comes back right before the half. Kylan Evans, a one-handed touchdown catch, Texas State commit, and calls it in there and makes it 21-20. And we've got a barn burner going on right now here at the Ford Center.
Good quarterback battle out there between Hawkins and Roberts, both teams. But I think it's a great coaching matchup. I think it's a great coaching matchup because you got, one of the legendary coaches on one side versus what I consider as an up-and-comer and Clint Surratt on the other.
Yeah, Kendall Miller, THSCA president there at Frisco Emerson, has done a great job getting this program off the ground with a 9-2 record last year in their first varsity season. He's done a great job with that program. They're 2-0 right now coming into the season. Clint Surratt spent a lot of time there on Jeff Rayburn's staff at Frisco Lone Star. Had a cup of coffee as a head coach at Princeton. Started up this Panther Creek program, and they had their share of trouble last year early in the season, starting out 0-6, I believe, and then kind of got hot late in the year, snuck into the playoffs. But they're cooking this year. They're 2-0. Braxton Roberts, the quarterback, who transferred in from Lone Star, is really looking good. He's had a great first half leading this Panther Creek offense, and Panther Creek's for real. They're going toe-to-toe, blow-to-blow with a state-ranked Class 5A program. And I think they're serving notice to Class 4A that they're going to be a real contender. That we saw them down at State 7-on-7 in College Station. Panther Creek looked great down there, and they look great here with the pads on and real football. They played a fantastic first half.
Classman over there. You got Malik Hawkins on one side for Frisco Emerson, and you got Centel Simpson on the other side. Centel Simpson, he seems like a giant.
Yeah, he's listed as a wide receiver, and Panther Creek uses him a lot at running back. They will split him out wide, but he spends a lot of time in the backfield next to Braxton Roberts, and he's got 2 touchdown runs in the first half. He's a big, tall kid. but he moves well. He's been great on kickoff returns, and he runs tough. He puts his shoulder into guys, and he leans forward for extra yards. And he's a guy that maybe he's playing a little bit out of position, but he's helping his team out and doing a great job at it.
You heard it from Matt Stepp out there at Frisco ISD. I think he's in the Star tonight. Are you in the Star tonight, Matt?
Yes, I'm enjoying this lovely air conditioning here at the Star, and it is lovely. Waiting for the weather to cool off next week, but tonight we'll be thankful for the AC and the comfy confines here at the Ford Center.
I was at the Toyota Center last night, Matt, and it was about 150 degrees on the field, so I envy you a little bit.
Yeah, I almost need a blanket. I'm wearing shorts. It's a little chilly in here. I might have to get a blanket.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, so again, you have Matt Stepp joining us there from the Star, and that looks like a very good game early on between a couple of Frisco schools.
Yeah, no doubt, and I love games that have like a quarterback battle, right? Because you never know what's going to pop off at the end of the game. Who's going to have the ball last. Michael Hawkins Jr., he's committed to Oklahoma. He's a DCTF 4-star. And Braxton Roberts on the other side is a guy who's always impressed me each and every time I've seen him, and he's a guy who you can, depend on when the ball's in his hands late in the game.
Again, we were talking about this matchup just a little bit ago, and it looks a bit different than last year's matchup. College Station with a 43-12 lead over Temple in that contest. Is that a bit surprising to you? Maybe not, because you were just talking about you expect this College Station offense to be really, really dangerous toward the last part of the season.
I think it's a dangerous offense, but kind of what surprises me is that they've given up 43 points in the first half. Scott Stewart's teams, they're hard-nosed, hard-hitting teams year in and year out. But I will say this, Temple's a little young this season. They don't have the upperclassmen that they normally have. They graduated some of their most talented players off the squad last year, like Mikkel Harrison-Pilot, who went to Houston. They've got a young defensive end who I'm keeping an eye on. His name's Jamarian Carlton. He's got about 4 or 5 scholarship offers already. He was in the DCTF Rising Top 25 for the class of 2026. So he's a guy who I think is going to be a big-time player, but they just have to mature, I think, within that defense. Don't worry, Temple. Scott Stewart will get them right. This will be a hard-hitting team. This will be a team that keeps points off the board by the end of the year.
So again, College Station with a big lead. As again, we take a look at some of those other scores, as looks like we've got North Crowley threatening to cut into that Lovejoy lead. So we'll see Klein Collins, Summer Creek. That's a 14-0 lead now for Summer Creek. And then North Shore, 21 points on Westfield so far. As we take a look again, we got Lovejoy and North Crowley. All right, we'll jump right into that one.
Couldn't get it there. Still first and goal. Now second and goal at the 3-yard line. Panthers with a chance to score very quickly here. Handoff here finds Williams up the middle for a touchdown off to his left. And now it'll be 13-6. North Crowley on the board with the touchdown run. And by Cornelius Warren. A huge play there by the Panthers. So 13-6.
All right, North Crowley finding the end zone there. Let's take a look. We had this team was one of the spotlight games last week. They took down Denton Geyer. Alito taking on the Northwest Texans, as we'll take a look at some of those highlights as those are rolling in. Alito and Northwest. We'll go right into the first quarter. This is going to be a stifling defensive effort, as that's Cooper Cohen and Ben McLeary combined for the tackle for loss, and that sets up an opportunity for the Alito offense, as this is Haas Hendry scrambling for 15 yards. As you see, he's elusive and able to get inside Texans territory. That gets a first down for Alito. Then later that drive, Henry's going to take it to the right side and find the end zone to make it 10-0 Alito. Again, that was in the second quarter. But Northwest, they're not going to back down, as that's just a powerful run right up the middle. They punch it in from just a few yards out as Northwest gets on the board, but they do miss the point after. At that point, it is a 10-6 Alito lead, and they're off to a good start. But I mean, that win last week against Denton Geyer, they came in to Denton Geyer Stadium and got a very big win right at the wire.
I expect Alito to win every game.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Yep.
they're not an underdog in any scenario. Denton Geyer was a step up in classification for them, but I think that everybody that was going into that game thought that Aledo was going to be right in it, maybe deserving to win it. Geyer is the team in that game that really actually surprised me. I didn't know that quarterback Logan McLaughlin was going to be that talented. They were going to have that many explosive weapons. But when you have Hoss Haney under center for you, anything can happen, and that's why I like Aledo week in and week out.
Yeah, so you had the couple of scrambles to set up a touchdown, a 10-6 Aledo lead. As we'll see, we're closing in on the end of the half here as Temple trying to get any sort of positive momentum going in, and we'll just dive right into the call right there from Temple.
Plenty of mustard on it to where, again, it was not going to be run up on there.
So they'll send the field goal unit out, try to salvage some points here, and come away with something here after this drive. So coming out is Alan Hernandez. It's going to be a 29-yard attempt. Snap back, hold down, kick is on its way, and it is good. Your new score from Wildcat Stadium, College Station 43 and the Wildcats 15. Wildcat football continues in 30 seconds on Fox Sports Radio.
All right, so we'll take you in now to Summer Creek versus Klein Collins as we got some more action in the red zone coming up.
Summer Creek looks to capitalize here. Great pass over the middle of the field. That receiver was wide open, number 5. Summer Creek is extending that lead over Klein Collins. A little bit of a surprise there for me. I thought heading into tonight, this was the game that was just going to go toe for toe all the way up into the wire, but Summer Creek is taking control early. Looks to be playing a flawless game early on.
That's 20-0 as they come up on the halftime break. And again, we were looking at some of those scores. We got some more highlights rolling in, I believe.
Yeah, we're going to go to Lake Highlands versus Highland Park, and we're going to start off the first play from scrimmage here for Lake Highlands in this game against, a perennial power, Highland Park. It's going to be Myron McGee hauling in a bomb and going 75 yards to the house. That's a house call on the first play of the game. And we're going to keep with the action here. Still in the first quarter, you're going to see Highland Park senior quarterback Warren Peck scramble for a first down here on a fourth down play for Highland Park. Peck is a big body out there scrambling. The guy you don't want to hit. Later on in that drive, remember that, later on in that drive, you're going to see Highland Park, the Highland Park running back here, get the handoff on a little pitch play, take it around the corner, and HP, the Scots, are going to get on the board to draw this one even, tie it up at 7. On the corresponding drive here for Lake Highlands, there's a running back who I really like here on this highlight, Deontay Dean. Gets the inside handoff, makes a man miss, gets to the outside, takes it 68 yards to the house to put Lake Highlands back on top of Highland Park. Something I didn't expect to say tonight, 14-7 Lake Highlands here. But you're going to see more Peck. He got waylaid there. Ryan Sherrado comes in on a delayed blitz to get that stop. This is an interesting game, between Highland Park and Lake Highlands. Lake Highlands is a talented squad. Highland Park doesn't trail often.
Yeah, they got a close win last week at home, but as of right now, that's all Lake Highlands in that game. So again, we're starting to get these really rolling as we take a look. This has been an exciting game so far as we've got Eaton with the ball now as they get into Hebron territory. That's a 21-17 lead. Again, Hebron had a couple of back-to-back scores. They tied the game at 14 and then got an interception and converted on the next drive. Eaton with a field goal. And Eaton has it now. We'll dive right into the call on that game on Texas.
Space. We see what he can do when he's got an open field. Very, very talented.
Lots of time on first down. Pressure coming. There's the hit, and it's going to be picked off. Connor Dean with the INT, his first of the season. And now a flag down as I think he was hit after he was out of bounds. But what a huge play. Another turnover forced by this Hebron defense thanks to the pressure of Clay Lindmark.
Absolutely, you called it, Thomas. It's Lidmark who blows them up. It looked like a cramp for Hebron out on the field there.
All right, we're going to dive into that game a little bit more on the other side of the break. Stick with us. This is week number 3 of Texas High School football, and you're watching all the action right here on Dave Campbell's Texas Football Tonight.
There's only one state in the nation with 13 Division I FBS programs, and there's only one podcast that talks about every single one of them. Introducing the Dave Campbell's Republic of Football podcast, the most complete coverage of the Lone Star State. Join host Ishmael Johnson, Carter Yates, and Mallory Hartley live on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. for the biggest news and weekly previews on all Texas FBS programs. Can't catch every college football game on Saturdays? We've got you covered with recap episodes Sunday mornings with senior writer Mike Craven checking in. Subscribe everywhere you get your podcasts, including Spotify and Apple. Strap in with your host Ishmael Johnson, producer Mallory Hartley, senior writer Mike Craven, and college writer Carter Yates for a ride that'll last from now throughout the season.
Need your daily football fix? Look no further than Texas Football Today, the daily live show from the people that bring you Dave Campbell's Texas football. Every weekday at noon, Greg Tepper and Ashley Pickle bring you the latest news, deep dive analysis, insightful interviews with big name guests, and more. And if you ever miss an episode, you can subscribe to the Texas Football Today podcast to keep up with all the fun. Don't miss Texas Football Today every weekday at noon at texasfootball.com, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and subscribe to Texas Football Today wherever you get your podcasts. Nobody covers Texas high school football like Tep and Step, the premium high school football podcast from Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Dig deep into the sport in every corner of the state with high school football insider Matt Stepp and managing editor Greg Tepper, with game previews, unique insights, and bold predictions. Get Tep and Step by becoming a Dave Campbell's Texas Football subscriber at texasfootball.com/subscribe.
We might not be good at many things, but there is one thing that we crushed, and that's naming a stinking podcast. WTF. Yes, it's exactly what you're thinking. Women talking football. Oh, you thought it meant something else? You might be right. Tune in every Thursday at 2 p.m. as me, Ashley Pickle, and everyone's favorite Mal pal, Mallory Hartley, bring you in-depth analysis of every region of the Lone Star State, talk ball with reporters across Texas, get the real scoop from coaches' wives, and all the other nonsense that comes along with the two of us being allowed to talk into a microphone. Join the party Thursdays at 2 o'clock on the Dave Campbell's Texas Football YouTube page.
Welcome back to Dave Campbell's Texas Football Tonight, and we're about an hour in or so. All right, what are your impressions? This is a lot to try and keep up with, but a lot of excitement, no doubt.
Well, that Hebron-Eaton game looks like it is going to be a track meet in the best of ways, right? It may not be the most high-scoring game, but it's going to be a lot of fun because you're seeing a lot of heavy hitting going on both sides. A lot of big plays are happening. The Katy game, kind of getting out of control on Tompkins. And then we flashed in on that Highland Park game. Trailing Lake Highland's not something that you're going to say very often, so that one's like a surprise, but there's a lot of good action going on across the state.
There was one game we were looking at a little bit earlier that kind of caught you by surprise a bit. Summer Creek taking on Klein, and I believe we got Chase Snyder, who was on the call for that game. We've got him up, and Chase, understand that game was a bit delayed. Some storms in the area. Just kind of take us through. Doesn't look like the Summer Creek offense was hurt at all by a bit of a later start.
No, the Summer Creek offense was not affected at all. In fact, they've looked better than they've looked all season long. Lloyd Avant is incredible. He's got 2 touchdowns on the night, a 35-yard touchdown, a 10-yard touchdown run. That offensive line has been getting it done. Summer Creek on both sides of the ball in the trenches have been fantastic, especially from Caleb Walker on the Summer Creek side. Had a dominant second quarter, and that's why we're at 20-0 here, as we're looking at halftime right now.
Hey, Chase, I kind of agree with you. Coming into this game, I was in my mind maybe giving a mental edge to Klein Collins based on what's happened in the first 2 weeks. You know, Klein Collins was able to beat them last year as well. I didn't know that Summer Creek had the quarterback play to match up with Tucker Parks in this game, but it looks like the Summer Creek QB is handling his business tonight.
Yeah, he is. He also had a big 26-yard scramble to set up that 10-yard Lloyd Avant touchdown. They haven't been asking him to do much except basically throws to the outside, hitch passes, whatnot. But when he's been asked to make some plays on his own, he's been able to ad-lib and make some fantastic plays, scramble and get out of the pocket and set up 1st and goal like I just talked about. The Summer Creek defense as well, Tucker Parks has had nothing working for him because they've been living in that backfield all night long. He's been trying to do it all himself, but Summer Creek defensive line has been getting after it. I've been pretty impressed.
Chase, I got to ask you, Xavier Atkins, a move-in from Louisiana. He's a guy who's very intriguing to me. He looks like he passes the eyeball test. He's a guy who I've never got a chance to watch in person. Really, he's a bit of a mystery to me. He's a 4-star prospect. Tell me about Xavier Atkins. Is he the truth?
He passes my eye test as well. He's so fast. He gets from sideline to sideline. Can also make a big hit. I mean, he laid out Penwright on a big 3rd down, and he passes the eye test for me here. He's probably the fastest Summer Creek Bulldog on the field, and that's saying a lot because I've also been impressed from Caleb Walker tonight. As I said, he's been living in that Tigers backfield. But yeah, Xavier Atkins, he passes the test. I promise you. He'll be fun to watch whenever you can see him.
Klein Collins does have a Western Kentucky commit under center in Tucker Parks. They have Jared Penwright at running back, and Chris Gant is one of those type of guys that can make a big play on defense to get his team back in the game. What does Klein Collins got to do to turn the corner? Do they have a shot here to crawl back into it?
I mean, they do have a shot, especially with Tucker Parks as your quarterback, but at the same time, they need to protect him better up front. Parks has been trying to do a lot, maybe trying to do too much. He's been trying to escape the pocket, probably escaping pocket when it's too early to, but he's a Western Kentucky commit for a reason, and he's carried this team on his back for the last couple of years or so. They can get back into this game, but they're going to have to do 2 things. 1, protect Tucker, and 2, stop Lloyd Avant, which I don't know you can do, especially with a 20-0 lead. They're going to pound that football up 20, trying to take some clock off here. So it's going to be an interesting second half for sure.
Lloyd Avant, I think that you're in the right situation. That was Chase Snyder out there covering the game for us. And we've got another good one between, the McKinney squad is out there. Nick, won't you tell us about it?
Yeah, we've got a really good one, Flower Mound and McKinney. That one is not as high scoring like we've seen some of the other games, but we'll just get right into it. We talked a lot about this quarterback in week number 1, God's Power Juan Wahey. He'll just throw it up, and why not? If you have a target like Christian McIntrust, as he's able to come down with the ball and powers through, that's going to be his first touchdown of the year. As we take a jump a little bit ahead, this is going to be a punt from Flower Mound, and McKinney is going to fumble it right toward midfield, and it's going to be recovered by Aiden Nunez. And so we see a turnover there as McKinney up 7-0 as they're in the first quarter, but a big fumble there at midfield. And then Flower Mound, how about this? Let's open up the playbook a little bit. Down 7-0. How about a double pass right here? Jake Watson is going to find Noah Erdman for the touchdown. And I like that. Opening up the playbook, a little bit of trickery, and it works to perfection. That tied the game up at 7. And then we take a look here, powering through. McKinney able to get in. That's going to be a touchdown as McKinney takes the lead 14-7 in the second quarter. And so, again, that one not as high-powered as we've seen some of the other games. We'll jump right in as Lovejoy with an opportunity to extend their lead, and that's going to be a touchdown right as we tune in. Again, that's the beauty of this show, being able to go kind of game to game.
Yeah, that was Ben Adams for the on the touchdown carry there for Lovejoy.
We see the lights again there for Lovejoy as they get another touchdown up on the board, as we'll take a look at some of the other games going on. But that's a really fun game right now between McKinney and Flower Mound, and there's a couple of very exciting plays we saw from that.
I really love the double pass, and I think that if you're Flower Mound, that's the type of thing that you need to do to beat a heavily favored McKinney squad coming into this game. Of course, McKinney's got a bevy of Division I prospects on that team, and God's Power one way, he is a guy who's really taken off. He can beat you with his arm, he can beat you with his legs, and he's a guy who I think is really starting to hit his stride within that McKinney offense.
Yeah, so again, that one, McKinney is up by a score of 14-7. Again, taking a look at just some of those other scores there in the quad box, we got some very exciting games. But, yeah, we'll take a look as we got Bridgeland and Shadow Creek, and I believe we've got Trevor Bullard on the call, as we'll go right to him, and that's a very exciting game starting out in the third.
You have a team that's won a state championship and appeared in a state championship game in the last 5 years. So they do have some championship pedigree down here in Alvin ISD. Man in motion. Give it off on the jet sweep. A couple of yards there to go for Chris Stewart. Looking at these teams' next upcoming games for a touchback. Bridgeland, here we go. Getting the off week. Chase, how you feeling? Both teams pretty good. Have off weeks. We'll talk about it in a moment after this injury timeout. Be back with you. Shadow Creek's now scored 13 unanswered and looking to potentially take their first lead of the night here on this drive. One of our spotlight games on Texas football tonight. Just lives up to the hype. Big opening 17-0 lead for Bridgeland, but you have a team that's won a state championship and appeared in a state championship game in the last 5 years. America.
All right, so again, we got some more highlights rolling in. We've got another high-scoring affair as we'll take a look. We'll jump right into the highlights. We'll take you into the second quarter, C.E. King versus Pearland, and this is going to be Darius Clark James, 15 yards, connecting with Meki Emerneni. I beg your pardon, and that made a 21-14 C.E. King lead. Staying in the second quarter, Clark James again. Another connection to Emerneni as back-to-back connections for them, and that makes it a I beg your pardon, I got a little mixed up there on the highlight, but again, we've got a couple of very exciting plays, and this is going to be a nice one. C.E. King, and they're going to jump right in as Darius Clark James, that's a 6-yard touchdown run, makes it 28-14. C.E. King on top so far in that game.
Greenville and Chapel Hill here, and you're going to see SMU 4-star running back commit Ricky Stewart hit the edge of the defense for a 68-yard touchdown for Chapel Hill, going up 7-0 here over Greenville. We're going to keep it with an offensive showcase here for Tyler Chapel Hill, as it's going to be quarterback Demetrius Brisbane on the RPO play here, keeping it up the middle. Another touchdown rushing for Demetrius Brisbane. We've said his name a lot. This time we're going to be able to see him do it with his arm. It's going to be Brisbane finding Javen Mayfield on a 15-yard strike here on the fade. That's number 0, Javen Mayfield, putting Chapel Hill up once again. And it's going to be more for Chapel Hill. Quentin Greenlee, 42-0 right now. Tyler Chapel Hill out in East Texas.
We've had 3 weeks of this show, and we've had Demetrius Brisbane featured all 3 weeks so far. He continues to get it done.
He's a fun player.
Very impressive showing so far for that team as well. Step aside. Again, we got more highlights rolling in and more quad box. That's coming up on the other side of the break here on Texas Football Tonight.
There's only one state in the nation with 13 Division I FBS programs, and there's only one podcast that talks about every single one of them. Introducing the Dave Campbell's Republic of Football podcast, the most complete coverage of the Lone Star State. Join host Ishmael Johnson, Carter Yates, and Mallory Hartley live on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. for the biggest news and weekly previews on all Texas FBS programs. Can't catch every college football game on Saturdays? We've got you covered with recap episodes Sunday mornings with senior writer Mike Craven checking in. Subscribe everywhere you get your podcasts, including Spotify and Apple. Strap in with your host Ishmael Johnson, producer Mallory Hartley, senior writer Mike Craven, and college writer Carter Yates for a ride that'll last from now throughout the season.
Need your daily football fix? Look no further than Texas Football Today, the daily live show from the people that bring you Dave Campbell's Texas football. Every weekday at noon, Greg Tepper and Ashley Pickle bring you the latest news, deep dive analysis, insightful interviews with big name guests, and more. And if you ever miss an episode, you can subscribe to the Texas Football Today podcast to keep up with all the fun. Don't miss Texas Football Today every weekday at noon at texasfootball.com, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and subscribe to Texas Football Today wherever you get your podcasts. Nobody covers Texas high school football like Tep and Step, the premium high school football podcast from Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Dig deep into the sport in every corner of the state with high school football insider Matt Stepp and managing editor Greg Tepper, with game previews, unique insights, and bold predictions. Get Tep and Step by becoming a Dave Campbell's Texas Football subscriber at texasfootball.com/subscribe.
We might not be good at many things, but there is one thing that we crushed, and that's naming a stinking podcast. WTF. Yes, it's exactly what you're thinking. Women talking football. Oh, you thought it meant something else? You might be right. Tune in every Thursday at 2 p.m. as me, Ashley Pickle, and everyone's favorite Mal pal, Mallory Hartley, bring you in-depth analysis of every region of the Lone Star State, talk ball with reporters across Texas, get the real scoop from coaches' wives, and all the other nonsense that comes along with the two of us being allowed to talk into a microphone. Join the party Thursdays at 2 o'clock on the Dave Campbell's Texas Football YouTube page.
Welcome back inside the North Texas Television Studios campus, University of North Texas. Week number 3 of Texas football tonight. And again, some great scores going on. We've got a close one thus far, North Shore and Spring Westfield, as we've got Gavin Moritz on the call. And Powers, I'll let you just dive right into it with Gavin.
Hey, Gavin, 31-9 out there. You got North Shore starting to pull away from Spring Westfield. Give us your first half impressions here. What does Westfield have to do to stay in this game?
Well, I think a big part for Westfield in the second half is going to be containing Caleb Bailey, right, Sean? I mean, Caleb Bailey, in terms of extending plays in that first half, he was sensational.
He set the tone early on. You know, the kid coming off the ACL, which held him out of much of last season. He's been a little tentative the first couple of weeks, and I think he's still trying to feel his way in when he was coming into this game, Gavin. Once he stuck that foot into the ground on that first offensive series, albeit just a 4-yard gain, it really set the tone, I think, for the Mustangs this evening, set the tone really for his year as he's continued to be a factor for this offense going forward.
And of course, Gavin's joined out there by Sean Bajani at Planet Ford Stadium. You can't talk about North Shore without talking about defense. They're loaded up with guys, but a guy that I kind of had a question about coming into this game was a transfer that he came over from C.E. King. His dad's a coach on the North Shore staff, and that's Levante Johnson, joining Devin Sanchez in a very talented secondary. Are they as good as I suspect they might be?
Absolutely. Levante Johnson made his will felt on the field early this evening, had a big interception. In fact, it was on the 6-yard line and really kind of set the tone, ended up, Gavin, for what North Shore was able to do offensively after that. But Levante Johnson's just kind of just been involved in any play that Westfield's tried to take deep. They've thrown his way a couple of 3 times this evening, and there's no window. You fit a ball in, no matter how perfect you're going to place it, he's going to affect a play. He's done so tonight.
Right. I mean, Levante Johnson, he's been in every single coverage package North Shore has thrown out there. Westfield's tried to attack him. They haven't been successful. Levante Johnson, he's got the interception already, and he's kind of just been involved in the back end of every play in the secondary.
John Kay's been the only head coach in North Shore history until this year. Now you have Willie Gaston taking over the reins there. I don't think there's ever been a question about the talent that North Shore possesses, but there might have been some questions about what's going to be going on underneath of the headset. Has Gaston been able to prove his point as the head coach of this team? I mean, they've had some impressive victories out of the gate, but Westfield is, as I see it, generally one of the toughest teams in the Houston Metroplex.
Yeah, and Willie Gaston, right? I mean, he came into the year, they played with the Woodlands week 1, they played spring last week. And I mean, those are two fairly impressive wins for North Shore, right? But not really a test, kind of like we thought Westfield would give them. Westfield being the number 23 team in Class 6A in the state. And so far, I think Willie Gaston, and his team have looked the part.
Absolutely. And, look, you have to give the credit. This is David Amon's baby. It started years ago, 20 some odd years ago, when he brought Willie Gaston in after he'd finished up a brief NFL career. Coach John Kay, the same thing. You go from Amon to Kay to Gaston. The one thing, really, there are multiple things that haven't changed. It's certainly the culture and the expectation, the discipline that this program plays with. And that's the expectation every day across the board. And it's evident. You're seeing the fruits of the labor of David Amon, of Coach K, with a Willie Gaston coached North Shore Mustang team this year.
You heard it from him out there at Planet Ford Stadium, Nick. 31-9 North Shore over Spring Westfield. It looks like the Mustangs have a lot to offer. We might see them again in the 6A Division I state championship picture.
Yeah, and they always have just a plethora of talent. And they were talking about, especially that secondary there for North Shore. A lot of playmakers, no shortage of talent.
Loaded.
Yeah, as we take a look, they didn't even mention Devin Sanchez that much, but I mean, look at those numbers for that cornerback. I mean, he's been phenomenal.
He's already a 5-star. Yep. He's the number 2 rated prospect in the 2025 DCTF Rising Hot 100. Devin Sanchez has offers from coast to coast: Alabama, Ohio State, Texas, Texas A&M. I could sit here and read the offers that he has, and we'd be here for 5 minutes. Yeah. That's how talented he is. What I really love about Devin Sanchez's game is that he has the size to match up against a 6'4", 6'5" wide receiver, but he has the hips of a 5'11", 175-pound defensive back. He has the attitude that you look for. He has the chip on his shoulder that you want. He wants to go on the field and take on the best receiver on the other team. He takes pride in that. Sanchez, as you can see here, long arms, being able to reel in and tip a ball. He's not afraid to come up here and stick his nose in to make a tough tackle. And that's why you see everybody in the country coming after him. The only question remains is, what school does he want to play for? What school will he eventually end up choosing? Well, guess what? You're going to have to wait, because he's still got 2 years of high school ball left before he signs with somebody. And then we're here at the University of North Texas. Why not talk about a North Texas commit Christopher Barnes? Christopher Barnes is the electricity of the North Shore offense. They have a lot of talent. They have Caleb Bailey under center. They have DeAndre Hardiman at running back. They have Terrence Guillory and Dion DeBlanc at wide receiver. But when this team needs a big play, when they need a go-to guy, look for Christopher Barnes to take an underneath route and cash in a big gain. And he did that in last week's game, where he scored a 25-yard touchdown on a screen pass. That's the type of element that he brings to this offense. Guillory and DeBlanc will stretch you out, and Christopher Barnes is the guy who'll come underneath and manage you.
Yeah, and so, that's very good right there. Oh, yeah, we got some highlights here. Dion DeBlanc here. You were just talking about him just a second ago, but...
Yeah, he actually missed last season because he transferred to North Shore, so he missed the year due to UIL transfer rules. And he came in and made an instant impact. And I think this was it was the first touchdown in last week's game. Really got North Shore off to a quick start. They went on to win that game handily. And Dion DeBlanc is a guy who you may not know a lot about right now if you're a Texas high school football fan. But by the time December rolls around, this is a name that everybody's going to know. He has about 10 offers to his credit right now. He's a guy that's going to have 30 offers by the time it's all said and done. He's a 4-star guy that's been on our radar since he was a freshman. I believe he transferred in from Aldine Eisenhower. So this is a guy who we've known about for a long time. And he's just getting started, basically with his Texas high school football career at North Shore. I expect a lot out of him. He's a guy that's tough to defense because he can stretch the field vertically and he can run crispy routes underneath.
Yeah, this is a game we've also been looking at throughout the night.
Game.
Yeah, this And we'll just dive right into it. Bridgeland and Shadow Creek.
4th down and 2 from the 27. Sharks going for it, looking to take the lead. And it negates design keeper. Ja'Cory Watson picks up the first down and more, and heads into the end zone for the Shark lead. A 4th and 2 ends in 6. And off. Ball takes a shot at the 25. And that just might be the final play of the 3rd quarter as time. An extra point here to go up by 3.
Well, early on, we've talked about some new faces filling in for some legendary coaches, and that's sort of the same situation in Lorena as Kevin Johnson taking over. Cameron Stewart has more.
They don't need to hear the same whistle any longer. They need to hear another whistle.
There's a new whistle blowing at Leopard Field. After 30 years and 200 victories, Coach Ray Biles took Lorena back to the mountaintop in 2021.
At long last, Lorena is a state champion again.
Just 13 months after the triumph, Biles hung up his whistle for good.
It's time. It's time for me to move, and it's good for my wife, my 4 kids, and my 9 grandkids, and I've had a whole lot more time to invest with them. So while I miss it and my heart hurts in some ways, it was also absolutely the right thing to do.
With Biles' legacy spotted all over Leopard Field, whomever was coming in next had big shoes to fill.
Every time you lose a big role like Coach Biles was to our team, I mean, there's a little bit of uncertainty. Everybody kind of felt it, even the coaches a little bit. We're just all kind of questioning what was going to happen.
Luckily for new head coach Kevin Johnson, a challenge like this is nothing new. He's waited a long time to become a head coach, twice. After injuries cut his college football career short, Johnson turned to coaching as a way to stay in the game. First as a grad assistant at Sam Houston State, then as an assistant at his alma mater, Conley, for 9 seasons before being promoted to the head man. 5 seasons later, another football journey was cut short for Johnson. He stepped away from the game for something much more important.
My wife had some major complications, and during those complications, we had to have an emergency C-section, which in the process almost lost both of them. It's just one of those times that, you got to take care of your family. Family first. That's what I tell everybody here.
To keep a steady home life, Johnson strayed away from the game and opted for an administrative position at Lorena, where 3 years after leaving Conley, he found his way back on the sideline in a smaller role. After years of battling for 3A supremacy in the Waco area, he was now learning under one of his fiercest competitors.
We played each other year after year and got to know him over those years, and just a great man. And, then when I had an opportunity to come over here and work with him in a different capacity, I really enjoyed that.
Really had a tremendous amount of respect for him, the way he ran the programs, the things he's done with the program over at Conley when he was there. I was always thinking, it's a great young guy that's busting his fanny and doing it the right way.
But even in his new role as principal, Johnson kept the energy he brought to the football field, albeit in a much different way.
He wasn't one of those principals that sat in the office all day. He was in the hall. He was in the classroom. He was out on the field. He was, very, very active in the lives of those kids.
He's a lot different as a coach than he was as a principal. He was real straightforward as a principal and everything, which needs to be happening. But as a coach, he's a little more lenient in certain areas and stuff. But he's still hard on us. No, that's no joke.
Run to the ball! Turn and run when it's thrown!
When Biles stepped down in January, Johnson looked at his healthy family and the roots they had in Lorena and was ready to lead a program again. His only condition was he didn't want to change much.
The big thing was to try to come in and not rock the boat too much. The best thing is try to come in here and just keep it rolling as best you can.
We've kept everything the same. Everything from our warm-ups to everything here stays the same, and nothing's really changed, really.
To replace such a legend, Johnson has been leaning on an unlikely, or maybe the most likely source.
Coach Biles and I, we talk all the time. Now, I let him, he's trying to enjoy retirement and do some things, but Coach Biles checks in all the time, makes sure things are good. If I've got questions about something or just you want to pick his brain about something, pick up the phone and we call.
Not many coaches get a second wind in their career like Johnson has. Still fewer take on the uphill climb through the coaching totem pole for more than a decade, only to do it all over again. When the season kicked off and Johnson was the one giving the pregame speech, it was the culmination of over 25 seasons and an appreciation of what it took to get there.
I still had that itch. I never lost it. It wasn't something like I was ready to walk away from, but there's priorities at times, and then family's the priority.
The logos have changed, the years have gone by, and life has changed drastically for Kevin Johnson since taking his first coaching job. He isn't caught up in the shoes he needs to fill. He just wants to keep going.
I understand what the expectations are here at Lorena, and my job is to, keep those expectations high and to try to do our best to fulfill those expectations, and so I don't back down from that at all.
All right, well, it seems like we always get a stretch of a couple of weeks where the weather starts becoming a factor. We got some storms throughout the state of Texas, so a couple of the games here in DFW currently in lightning delay. Had a few of those down in the Houston area as well. There's one where James Tritley will join us, and that game is currently in a lightning delay. So before we get into the score and your thoughts about that game, just give us a little bit of an update. What are you hearing time-wise? How much longer will this delay be going?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we're hearing is the minimum 30 minutes, and now we have the PA going off. I don't know what they just said. I think they were just testing something, but we always know the minimum is 30 minutes for a lightning delay. Lightning's in the area. We're seeing it all across DFW and around the state. These games are getting delayed. We have storms coming in. How crazy is it? We have 100 degrees the past few days, and now we have storms rolling in. Weather's just going to change, and the Texas weather just does not want high school football to continue tonight.
James, it was some welcome rain, but it looks like the Lovejoy offense has been raining down a little bit of points on the North Crowley defense. Kind of break down what Lovejoy's been able to do in the absence of Parker Livingston.
Yeah, I think about whenever it comes to these two teams, there's a lot of offense to go around when it goes to North Crowley and Lovejoy. For Lovejoy, they've been the aggressor the entire game, and it hasn't really come from a lot of the passing game. Hondo Franklin has been the better quarterback over Chris Jemerson for North Crowley, but it's the run game that's making the difference. And we're really seeing two guys that are making the tempo and really continuing the tempo for Lovejoy. Now, first off, it's Dante Dean, one of their running backs, and then you also have Kalen Williams is another guy. They're the two guys that have gotten the first two touchdowns, and Peyton Pierce comes up. Of course, their linebacker comes up on a trick play in the end zone and finds 6 to add on to their impressive lead so far.
Next question. Last year, Lovejoy's team did not have the presence of Peyton Pierce for the majority of the season. To have a chance to win a state championship, they need Peyton Pierce to be playing at a very high level. What have you seen out of Peyton Pierce's play? Is he a difference maker that the Leopards fans can come to expect to ride them deep on a playoff march?
Yeah, I feel like just Peyton Pierce's presence on the field is throwing Jemerson off. Now, I'll give Jemerson a lot of credit. Even seeing him last year and what he was able to do against Lovejoy. That time, North Crowley was at home. This time on the road, Peyton Pierce, a little home field advantage, and even on the field, is providing to be a huge difference, kind of throwing off Jemerson's game, and it's resulted in North Crowley not being able to get the ball going their way.
Crowley is a team that's averaging well over 300 yards rushing each and every game so far this season. The bulk of that is done by Cornelius Warren, a young running back there within that offense who's very shifty. Is Warren hitting on all cylinders? And if he can get hot, can North Crowley crawl back into this one?
I think one word, absolutely. I think if Warren is able to get it done, and don't forget about Searle in the backfield too. They run both about the same amount of carries. Williams, of course, are getting both of the carries there. I think if he's going to be able to spark and be able to get things going offensively, that's what's going to turn this around. But that's all kind of in limbo if this weather holds up, and we may be on for a long delay.
That was James Tritley out at Leopard Stadium. James, thanks for hopping in. And I just want to give a special shout out. Yeah. Sam Reynolds overcoming a battle with cancer, the offensive center at Lovejoy. He's a multiple-time state championship winning wrestler. He's been the heart and soul of the offensive line at Lovejoy. Great news from Sam today where he announced that he's making his comeback and he's hopeful to put on his football jersey this season. Sam, welcome back and congratulations on beating cancer.
And that, you always get some stories like that. I mean, it's just so cool. That's what makes this sport so special, so unique, is those types of stories. And so again, that is a very good game right now. And yeah, of course, very great news. But we'll dive into some more game action. We got Denton Geyer looking to bounce back after a loss last week. They're taking on Lancaster, and this is a pretty good game. Lancaster with a chance to tie the game in the third quarter, and they're going to march all the way down inside the 5-yard line. That's a very strong run, but this Lancaster team marching right down the field.
Not a strong Jersey game
no,
for the Tigers
no.
right there to see who it was, but my odds are that was Kawan Lacey, the Nebraska commit, hitting the sideline there, setting up Lancaster here. It's a 14-7 game. Lancaster's coming off a loss to South Oak Cliff, and Geyer's coming off a loss to Aledo, so we'll see if the Tigers can power it in here to draw it even. They're signaling for touchdown, but it looked like to me he came up a little bit short.
Are you surprised at all, perhaps, of Geyer not being able to get the wheels really turning on offense so far?
Well, I mean, these are two quality programs. Yeah. The Tigers feature a ton of talent on both sides of the football. Corian Gibson, cornerback, 4-star guy, committed to Clemson. He's the number 2 cornerback in the state of Texas. He's an ultimate player, a guy who will come downhill and really blow you up, but he can really defend the pass well as well. On the offensive side of the football, the Tigers have a really talented team. Mm-hmm. They have Kawan Lacey at running back. They have a tandem quarterback system there where they can use 2 guys to really fill their needs, whether they need to run it or whether they need to throw it. And they have an offensive lineman going to TCU and Tobias Steps, who I really like a lot. But Geyer is absolutely loaded as well, the guy who I always have to watch. I love to watch Geyer, but the guy who I have to watch, because I love pancakes, and that's Willie Goodacre.
Score. Trying to get to the pick that time, Jason Bradford, and 36 yards later, the Cougars are back on the board, and Bradford will probably wish he had that one back.
Yeah, he just missed that ball. He missed it by about a hand and a wrist, trying to knock the ball away. Ball was placed perfectly by Maiden that time as the receiver took it into the end zone. As now it's 49-15 PAT pending.
Snap back.
All right, so we got some more highlights rolling in. We got Willis and New Caney as we'll take you into the first quarter. This has been a fun game to watch. This is from around midfield, empty backfield as Lagway drops back. And how about that? Able to connect with DeBron Hampton at the 25. He takes it all the way down inside of the 10. That's a strong play there. They would end up scoring on that. It would be a 7-0 lead for Willis still in the first. This is going to be another connection through the air as that is going to make it 14-0. That's Hampton again as he got his second score of the game going into the second. Willis takes the snap at the 1. Lagway steps back and is able to get to the pylons, makes it 27-7. Willis at that point at the halftime break as we take a look here, a blocked kick. It's going to be returned all the way back for New Caney as they get back on the board at the half. That is a 27-9 lead, but we've seen a couple of nice plays by the quarterback there for Willis, and the Wildcats up in that game.
I feel like DJ Lagway's already scored a season's worth of touchdowns in 3 weeks. He had 8 in the first half in week 1, and he's back doing his thing again in week 3. So DJ Lagway's a one-man highlight machine.
Yeah, it's doing it a couple of ways, doing it on the ground, and then, of course, a couple of big throws. We'll get right back. We got, I believe, that Shadow Creek game. That's been a fun one to watch with Berlin, and this is into the fourth quarter now, a 20-17 lead for Shadow Creek.
And you see Ja'Cory Watson looking deep for his wide receiver, found him right in stride. And if Ja'Cory Watson can do this in the passing game, then Shadow Creek is going to be a super dangerous team. As you'll see them getting this touchdown here to go up by 9 points, pending extra point to go up 10. Ja'Cory Watson's one of the most exciting players in Texas high school football. As a matter of fact, I give credit to our producer, Ashley Pickle, for discovering him almost 2 seasons ago in the first game of the season. Ja'Cory Watson is a guy who can really do it all. He's playing quarterback for Shadow Creek, but he's a guy who's being recruited by all the heavy hitters in college football as a wide receiver. And I think he can be one of the most dynamic wide receivers in college football when he gets there. But again, you're going to have to wait for that because he's just a junior. He's still got almost two full years of high school football left, and he's out there making these plays against a lot of upperclassmen. So he's a very talented guy.
All those numbers for a junior. Incredibles. I mean, we got some more highlights rolling in.
Yeah,
but
let's take a look at Judson and Pflugerville-Weiss.
Yeah.
You're going to see Converse Judson QB number 15, Elijah Favela, keeps the fake handoff and rushes for a touchdown, putting Judson on the board to tie it at 7. And we're going to keep it locked here with Judson as you're going to see Nathaniel Stanley, boom, runs over a defender there to put Judson up with another touchdown.
All right, so again, some more exciting games. Sticking back here in the DFW area, we got some storms going. We got that Hebron and Eaton game that is currently in a delay. We've seen a couple of really nice plays by that Hebron secondary, and we got Thomas Lee joining us now. And again, just ask you kind of the same thing we asked James a few minutes ago. What are you hearing right now in terms of how much longer until the game gets back into action over there?
Thomas Lee here with Pete Nielsen, and I tell you, in North Texas, we're happy that it's going to rain. It's faking like it's going to rain. We'd like for it to rain. We haven't had a lot of that lately, but right now, because it's a non-district game and the folks at Eaton have to drive literally across almost the entire Metroplex, word around here is we're going to go for about another 45 minutes. If we can get out on the field, we'll resume play. We'll get going, and we'll have more of what has been an absolutely wonderfully entertaining first half here at Brian Brazel Stadium.
You know, this was a game that was really on my radar because it was an intriguing matchup of two, what I felt like very different teams. You have first-year head coach for Hebron tonight, and you have a established coach that had a young team last year that's returning a lot of talent in Eaton. What have your perceptions been out of both of these squads coming in, you know, basically to a game that's tied? It's 21-17, but it's a very close contest.
Yeah, the first 3 possessions for the two teams combined resulted in touchdowns. I mean, it was literally we were racing up and down the field. And then finally the defenses started taking over, Peter. And I think at that point it got really fun because then you saw defensive plays made, you saw offensive plays being made. There are so many playmakers at all levels, on both sides of the ball for both teams. We've had a lot of fun tonight, especially the quarterback for Hebron, PJ Creighton, the son of Patrick Creighton, former Cowboy. He's been electric. He had 3 touchdowns in the first quarter alone. And then the running back for the Eaton Eagles, Devarian Williams-Franklin, had 95 yards on 2 carries and 2 touchdowns. That was pretty exciting. He's over 100 for the ballgame, Peter.
Guys, total offense over 400 yards, and that's including 3 turnovers by Eaton early on in the first half.
I got to ask about Hebron's defensive secondary because it looks like to us by watching the highlights as they've been coming in, they've made a lot of big plays. Bo Onu is a guy that really catches my eye. He has offers from Texas Tech and SMU, but there's been some other guys in that secondary that's been making some plays as well. Are they as good as advertised?
It's funny. They're a work in progress. And Coach Towles, the head coach here in his second year at Hebron, former defensive guru under Reginald Samples at Duncanville, before he kind of circled back to the Metroplex and got the head gig here. It was really impressive of him, the time that the coaches are taking. They're coaching these guys. The front 7 for Hebron is legitimate 2 deep, sometimes even 3 deep in certain positions. There is no drop-off. It is unbelievable how they rotate in these big guys. The secondary, on the other hand, they're relying on some playmakers. Gabriel White has really come into his own. Teams are trying to pick on him with the established returning starter in Garrison Blair coming back, and, of course, the 3-star prospect, Dylan Goodrich at safety. So when you kind of piece all that together, they started picking on Blair. Blair has come through with a couple of tremendous PBUs tonight against Eaton that probably saved at least 1 touchdown.
And a fumble recovery. The first fumble that Eaton had was a strip by Goodrich, and then Blair was able to come up with the fumble. So, yeah, they're growing as this team grows. They're giving up a lot of yards, but they've done a good job all season long of tightening inside in the red zone, and we're seeing that again tonight.
You talked about Bo Onu earlier. We didn't hardly call his name in the first quarter. Great game plan from Coach Ellis and Eaton to try to keep him from being a factor. Then the second quarter started, and it's almost like he entered the game because he had back-to-back big plays. And Clay Lindmark, the defensive end, came through and forced one of those interceptions on a ball that he was hit as he was thrown. Lugo did everything he could to put something on it, but it just kind of fell into the lap of Dean, the safety, and boy, Connor was able to make a good return out of it too. So opportunistic is the name, and every snap they seem to get better. If this Hebron defensive secondary can figure things out, I really think they become a contender in 6-6A to try to challenge Louisville.
What have been your impressions of the Eaton offense, led by Noah Lugo? He's committed to BYU. There were some question marks, I think, surrounding their wide receivers. I didn't have those question marks. I got to watch them in 7-on-7, and I thought they were balling. I mean, is the offense pretty impressive there for Eaton?
Lugo is unbelievable. It is so much fun to watch him, and an entire game plan designed to limit his effectiveness. He still made plays. Probably the best play he made all night got called back because of a holding. He ran about 45 yards downfield, making about 7 guys miss. One of those guys, every time he touches the ball, he kind of holds your breath a little bit. But I tell you, Mason Stubbe, the junior receiver, who's kind of the leading receiver of this Eaton bunch, he is spectacular. Great at finding holes in the zone, dragging across the middle, trying to find a spot for Lugo to put the ball on him. And the second leading receivers on this team are the 2 backs that they really move around quite a bit, and Demarion Williams-Franklin and Chris Duarte. They get those guys the ball in space on little dump-offs, on little checkdowns and things. That's part of the main part of their offense. And they let those athletes do stuff in space, which they're really good at. I think there are the other guys that are going to develop throughout the year as defenses start to try and take away Stubbe and take away the backs. But Lugo is so talented and so good at making you pay when you leave him open. I thought that was really the key in this second quarter. He started to kind of get loose before the rain and the lightning put a clamp on everything.
And I think Williams makes him even better because he runs to space so well, and the offensive line does a real nice job. And he's over 100 yards in the first half, and that combination of Williams and Lugo make Lugo even better. And this is a pretty talented Eaton team. And if it wasn't for the turnovers, they might have put 5 scores up. It's 3 turnovers that slowed them down.
You heard it right there from Thomas Lee and Pete Nielsen, 2 of the most knowledgeable guys we have out there talking game at 21-17, Hebron lead, and a lightning delay out at Brian Brazel Stadium in Carrollton.
Yeah, you really hope that those 2 teams can continue because that's been a very exciting game. But let's go right here. We were looking at this game earlier, Geyer and Lancaster. It's a 1-point lead for Geyer, and getting the toes down, that's going to be an impressive touchdown grab as Denton Geyer extends their lead in the third quarter. That's an acrobatic grab in the back of the end zone.
Yeah, that was Logan McLaughlin finding his big receiver, his outside receiver there, number 6, in the corner of the end zone. What a tremendous touchdown pass as Geyer answers the call that Lancaster made earlier whenever they were able to score a touchdown. They missed the extra point, it looks like. They weren't able to tie the game, trailing by 1 there. So it's a 7-point game, pending extra point, could push that lead to 8 as Denton Geyer has extended its lead.
That's a very exciting game. We got more highlights rolling in as we'll take a look. Jersey Village and Cy Springs will take you to the second quarter. Cy Springs with a 2-possession lead, and it's going to be the senior quarterback for Cy Springs, Adam Tran. This is going to be a 40-yard bomb right on the edge there of the field. That's Josh Nunez for the first down, as that was a very nice grab there. And then staying in the second quarter, it's going to be the senior running back, Quentin Jones, 3 yards on the handoff, powers his way into the end zone, and that brings Jersey Village to within a score. Staying there in the second quarter, it's going to be Harrison Mass taking a few steps back, and how about this? Unloading the cannon, and what a grab by Nick Brown. That's going to be 79 yards to the house as Cy Springs responds with a 28-14 lead there in the second. Impressive throw by Harrison Mass, 79-yard connection to Nick Brown. Sticking in the second quarter, lots of scoring here in that second. That's going to be Harrison Mass again, this time only 28 yards. That finds Paris Melvin Jr. So a couple of very impressive throws by Harrison Mass on some of those highlights. That's a 35-14 Cy Springs lead. As we get back into the quad box, we got some very exciting games going on. A couple of these, and that's Shadow Creek. Looks like they're marching down the field yet again.
Yeah, Shadow Creek, and it looks like Bridgeland was able to answer their touchdown. It's 27-24 in that game.
And here we go. We got Lake Travis, another score. So Lake
extending that lead, it looks like it's going to be to 27 points as they take a commanding control of this game over Buda Johnson. Lake Travis is a team that's a perennial state championship favorite. You know, Hank Carter coaches one of the best teams in the state of Texas every single year. I love going to their practices. Their practices are amazing. It's like watching a collegiate program attack each and every day, each and every week as they prepare. They got the drones and all this stuff going on at Lake Travis. This is a team that's very well coached.
As they're piling it on in the third quarter, a fun game if you're a Lake Travis fan in that contest. North Shore are extending their lead against Westfield as they've been doing a good job going into the third quarter now.
Still 31-9, but let's get back into this Bridgeland Shadow Creek game, and that is that man, Ja'Cory Watson, doing it now on the ground, making it look easy. That defender was left grasping at air as Ja'Cory Watson hits the Jets. I guess he hit the turbo button there.
Yeah,
you know
there
what
we go.
I mean?
Yeah.
Hit the turbo button there and was able to dodge that defender. He thought he had a beat on him, but he didn't. Shadow Creek's going to extend its lead here, pending the extra point, going up 10 points, 34-24, 33-24. Currently, we'll see here, it looked good to me.
Looks good from over here.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we'll jump ahead. We got North Shore and Westfield. Again, that's a 31-9 lead for North Shore, who, again, just continues to dominate. We'll dive right into the live call.
From the 36-yard line, 4th down and 4 for North Shore. Bailey on 4th down, under pressure. Fires, incomplete, turnover on downs. Westfield slated to take over.
Boy, that's a tough look. Good job by Westfield generating the pressure there, forced to get the ball out of Bailey's hands faster than he'd wanted to. I have to believe that he's probably looking for Chris Barnes over the top, who was singled up in zone in the intermediate. He came free. Bailey's able to, just hold on to it for a tick longer. We're talking about a touchdown.
Trying to connect there with Caleb Thomas to the near side. It falls incomplete. Westfield takes over. A big stop for this hosting Mustang defense with 8:51 to go in the third quarter as they take over from their own 36.
Talk about the small types of momentum that you can build. Westfield able to step up, get a good defensive stop there, and generate good field position for your offense.
Dent dumps it off low but caught. Tajee Atkins bottled up, and he's going to be brought down all the way back with the forward progress to the 33 or so. Now the 32, but still a loss of about 4 or 5 yards.
He's a tough kid to bring down, isn't he? He's slippery. He can cut on a dime.
How about Levante Johnson there? They were talking about him at halftime. Destroyed that running back right there.
So you see North Shore in control on that game. Again, Gavin Moritz on the call, calling on Texan Live as we'll take a look. Now we lead on Northwest. Last time we checked in on this game, it was a pretty tight one, but the Bearcats running away with it there in the third quarter.
Yeah, and Alito's wearing their nice orange jerseys tonight, as they host a game. And to give a little bit of behind-the-scenes look at what it's like to go to the game at Alito, every seat is sold out every weekend. It's a great atmosphere at Alito. If you go to that game, you can expect not to get out of the parking lot for an hour after the game is over.
Oh, man.
And that's because they've created a winning culture there. The fans love to come out on Friday nights and be a part of it.
Yeah, so again, Alito in control on that game against Northwest. All right. And so, again, we're taking a look at some of those other games. And, of course, we saw North Shore earlier. They were in charge. As we take a look, that's another success story of a new coach over there.
Yeah, no doubt. We heard our guys talk a little bit about Willie Gaston, so I'm interested to see this feature about him.
And for those unfamiliar, I really want to introduce them to Willie Gaston. But to think today, I get to call you Galena Park North Shore head football coach, Willie Gaston. How good does that sound?
They wasted no time. The next day, they hired Willie Gaston, the offensive coordinator for North Shore, to become the next head coach of the mighty Mustangs there at North Shore High School.
When I was younger in elementary, of course, I wanted to play football, and I had the opportunity where my dad moved to the east side of town, and and we moved over there with him because they had a new head coach named David Amon that everybody was fired up to have, and Coach Amon took North Shore to a different level. It was a program that never made the playoffs at all until he got there in 1994. So again, I was in young and elementary, and then all of a sudden I was playing Little League football and RAC football league over there on the east side where everybody played. And when I got to middle school, going to Cunningham, and it was unbelievable because when I was able to play football in 7th grade, that's when Coach K got the job as one of the middle school coaches, and you could tell right then and there he was special. He's ripped my butt more than anybody ever going through a program. I tell some of my kids, like, you think I had that same coach rip me from 7th grade, and when I went to 8th grade, I'm like, oh, he's going to be a 7th grade coach, we're good. Next thing I know, he's an 8th grade coach, and I'm like, oh, he's followed my whole career. And then it's like getting ready. I can remember this like yesterday. I can remember going to the summer workouts, going into 9th grade, and then all of a sudden I see Coach K. I'm like, what are you doing here? Oh, I'm gonna be a freshman coach. I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So it's just, that's like it was just like, oh my God, I couldn't escape him. I only escaped him for like 1 year. Going into my sophomore year, I was on varsity. Coach K became the head freshman coach. Junior year, now he's a varsity coach. I'm like, this dude, so his path of acceleration, he, like I said.
That's kind of trippy. That's a super small world. Maybe not equipped. Maybe he had this all planned out.
Yeah, I'll tell him, you know.
I'm looking at you, John K. We know what you're up. We know you're always planning.
And all our kids always think he controls the weather and all that stuff. So I was like, maybe he got some Jedi mind trick that he's all doing on this. And he's like that special of a dude, and you know.
Now, when did you join his staff, and how did that unfold?
Well, I joined their staff back in 2018. I was just recently released by the Baltimore Ravens. I can remember it's me and my big buddy Dylan Lineberry, who played at North Texas, and we was just going to go visit those guys up there, and we both were supposed to be starting jobs at Ferguson Plumbing Supply. He's still working there to this day, making tons of money.
Wow, doing well. You're both doing well.
So he's still working there to this day, and I can remember Coach Amon just saying, look here, we got this coaching open. I think you need to hop on it. I think it'll be good for you. And it's kind of like, nah, I'm good, Coach. And it was just like, no, you're going to take the job. I'm like, yes, sir.
So you didn't really have a choice.
Yeah, it's like you didn't have a choice. So, and I'll tell you what,
Again, he's got it all planned out.
Got it all planned, and it really worked out for me. So I can remember being a freshman coach in that fall, 2008, and going to my first coaching school in San Antonio and just being wide-eyed. And then it's like, oh, wow, you get to see a lot of your buddies that you played football with in college, and they're coaching now. And you just get to see coaches that was on the staff at North Shore when you played. And there's just so many guys you can come here and connect and just rekindle relationships with guys you lost touch with.
Walk me through how all of this unfolded this offseason. It did happen pretty quickly.
It was quick. Like you said, it was a week tops. And it's like I said, I came to Coach K. I've been knowing Coach K forever. I knew he was kind of off. Talked to him that Monday morning and just asked him, like, everything's good. And he's like, well, Rice want me to come check out this job they got open. And I think I'm going to go take a look at it. And it was on a Monday. He's going to be there on a Thursday to look at it. And he was there all day Thursday. Calls me Thursday night. You can hear the excitement kind of in his voice that he enjoyed it. But, you know, he had these opportunities before and he never jumped on it.
Right.
So me thinking, oh, he ain't gonna take this, and we'll be back to work as normal as usual on Friday. Well, like I said, he called me that night. Friday, for sure, he told me that he's gonna end up taking the job, and then Monday he was letting the kids know, and Tuesday I was introduced as the head coach. His impact on me has been tremendous, and I'm sitting here because of him and Coach Amon, and you know those guys really paved the way for me to get to this moment where I'm at right now.
How did success at North Shore, particularly as a coach, change you? Change your perspective? Change the outlook on not only the climb, but in kind of remaining up there to totally different?
You know, I think there's so many ways you can define success. Is it winning championships or is it impacting kids' life and change? So I think it's got to be a even kill balance of both. You know, yeah, you want to be successful, you want to try to win championships, but at the end of the day, you're not winning championship ain't gonna make you say you're not a successful coach. You know, there's a bunch of successful coaches don't get a chance to go compete for this, and we know, being a part of it and being on that side and being able to go compete for this is a hard thing too. Mm-hmm. You know, just stay at that point, and
isn't that a different challenge?
That's a challenge in itself right there, and I think.
And some coaches are facing that right now. So what would you tell them?
I think you just embrace the grind. You know, and understand like, hey, if you don't win a championship, that's not what it's all about. Sometimes it's about really impacting the program, impacting the community, and having good coaches. Like I think that's the number one thing I'm taking from this. Been at the Hall of Honor the other day, watching all those guys talk, and you know, and I'm looking there and I'm taking my notes on my phone because that's where you want to be at one day. And one thing they all said, it was a good staff. And I think as coaches are getting into this, you got to have good people around you that you can work with and understand this game and better, you know, mold young men.
Well, we see a handful of games there, but real quick, just touching back on that feature on Willie Gaston. I mean, how cool is that when you have, you know, a star for that program comes back and now the head coach? I mean, what does that do to just kind of keep that tradition alive?
I think it's tremendous for the program to have some stability. He was there for 15 years serving as the offensive coordinator. But beyond that, I love what Coach Gaston brings to the table. He was a defensive back in the NFL with an offensive mind, right? So he can relate to guys on both sides of the football, and I love that because North Shore's loaded on both sides of the football. You have to know and understand how to coach both of them. And I've known Coach Gaston for a while now. He's always been great, and I love to see that he's still great, even though he's the head coach at one of the most powerful and prominent programs in the Lone Star State.
Well, again, they've kind of been in control all night long in their contest as we take a look at some of these other scores. But, yeah, we'll go into that game right now, North Shore and Westfield.
Not sure what the discussion is here or
is that Cameron Smith
what
on
the
the
deal
catch?
is, but I'm fairly certain it's CE Kings
Oh,
football.
Cameron Smith.
He's in at quarterback right now in place of Caleb
Unless
Bailey.
they're going to
Has
allow
been
them
the
to kick
last
it
play
again.
or
I
two.
don't
Again,
understand.
Not really sure why, but North Shore down to the 11 here with the 1st and 10.
Boy, I didn't catch that. I'm sorry.
Smith, play fake. Flushed
So
out.
I guess what they're going to say is that it was offsides
Smith
on the
dancing
kicking
around,
team.
and he turns the corner, and he's
And
going to
there'll
be
be a
hammered out of
re-kick.
bounds down to about the 8. So ultimately,
After
he
a
gains
5-yard
3, but takes a shot.
All right, so again, you see North Shore in control throughout the night. Well, let's take a look. We got some more highlights rolling in. We got a showdown, Katy Tompkins versus Katy. And this one has been a little bit lopsided as we go into some of those highlights there. But this has been a Katy team that has had a lot of success. Or actually, I think we'll stick here with the North Shore and Westfield game. I apologize for that. But, yeah, North Shore, again, threatening inside the 10 there in the 3rd quarter, looking to grow their lead a little bit more against Westfield in this showdown.
We've pumped a lot of sunshine on North Shore all night. One thing I've been noticing as I've been watching this game, quarterback Caleb Bailey, he's a really good player, but he's a little loose with the football in his scrambles, holding it down with one arm lower beneath his body. That's something that he's really going to have to address as we get into the playoffs, and there are teams that have other D1 prospects hunting him down each and every play. You want to have good ball security, and you want to start to see him tighten that up right now. And here he is going to have another opportunity to get some points on the board for North Shore. So maybe I'm splitting hairs, picking on a little, just a little nuanced thing I notice as a scout, right? Like that you want to look at and see somebody make a little bit of an improvement with their game. But again, North Shore is loaded with weapons. And here you're going to see Bailey.
Power through.
Barreling over a defender into the end zone to tack more on here for North Shore in the 3rd quarter. And you know what? He's thicker than I remember him being. He's added some good weight to his frame, and you saw every ounce of it right there on that carry.
Now you see right there is good ball security, but I understand it can't be all 100% positives. You got to have a little bit of constructive
We want to be
criticism.
positive.
Exactly.
It's not. You want to see them get better, right?
Exactly,
This is the beginning of your journey, especially if you're a guy like Caleb Bailey, who's going to be playing somewhere in college, right? Like this is the beginning of his football journey, not the end. So you want to see steady improvements year over year, and that's, as a scout, that's what I look for on tape. You know, there are a lot of guys out here making impact as freshmen or sophomores, but how do they progress? How do they get better? That's what I really key in on, because that's really what separates a 4-star from a 3-star or a 5-star from a 4-star. It's very little nuanced things that make these guys ranked above maybe another one, and it really could be what leads to an offer from a big-time powerhouse school or not.
Well, so again, that's been a really good game. North Shore dominating as we take a look at Geyer and Lancaster. This has been a good one. We'll take you live to the call.
On the near side of the field, the defense did, covering 3 receivers, so you had to maybe take a man advantage to see if your blockers could get ahead and have it almost like a one-man to beat situation.
Corbin Glasgow, who you mentioned a few moments ago, the number 4 recruit. Pardon me, that's Corbin Gibson, number 3. And Geyer will take a timeout. We'll take that timeout with them. You're watching UIL football on Dave Campbell Texan Live.
All right, and again, that's a fun game so far. Denton Geyer in the lead. Well, I won't say in control. That's a very close game.
Geyer is like in a thrilling game, it seems like every week now, right? So
Yeah.
maybe we'll be hanging around watching the end of that one here pretty soon in the studio.
Yeah, and we'll keep an eye on that game. We'll take a break. You're watching all the Week 3 action right here on Dave Campbell's Texas Football Tonight.
There's only one state in the nation with 13 Division I FBS programs, and there's only one podcast that talks about every single one of them. Introducing the Dave Campbell's Republic of Football podcast, the most complete coverage of the Lone Star State. Join host Ishmael Johnson, Carter Yates, and Mallory Hartley live on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. for the biggest news and weekly previews on all Texas FBS programs. Can't catch every college football game on Saturdays? We've got you covered with recap episodes Sunday mornings with senior writer Mike Craven checking in. Subscribe everywhere you get your podcasts, including Spotify and Apple. Strap in with your host Ishmael Johnson, producer Mallory Hartley, senior writer Mike Craven, and college writer Carter Yates for a ride that'll last from now throughout the season.
Need your daily football fix? Look no further than Texas Football Today, the daily live show from the people that bring you Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Every weekday at noon, Greg Tepper and Ashley Pickle bring you the latest news, deep dive analysis, insightful interviews with big name guests, and more. And if you ever miss an episode, you can subscribe to the Texas Football Today podcast to keep up with all the fun. Don't miss Texas Football Today every weekday at noon at texasfootball.com, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and subscribe to Texas Football Today wherever you get your podcasts. Nobody covers Texas high school football like Tep and Step, the premium high school football podcast from Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Dig deep into the sport in every corner of the state with high school football insider Matt Stepp and managing editor Greg Tepper, with game previews, unique insights, and bold predictions. Get Tep and Step by becoming a Dave Campbell's Texas Football subscriber at texasfootball.com/subscribe.
We might not be good at many things, but there is one thing that we crushed, and that's naming a stinking podcast. WTF. Yes, it's exactly what you're thinking. Women talking football. Oh, you thought it meant something else? You might be right. Tune in every Thursday at 2 p.m. as me, Ashley Pickle, and everyone's favorite Mal pal, Mallory Hartley, bring you in-depth analysis of every region of the Lone Star State, talk ball with reporters across Texas, get the real scoop from coaches' wives, and all the other nonsense that comes along with the two of us being allowed to talk into a microphone. Join the party Thursdays at 2 o'clock on the Dave Campbell's Texas Football YouTube page.
All right, we're starting to get into the later hours of week number 3. Let's take a look at some more highlights. Talked about it a little bit earlier, Katy Tompkins versus Katy, and this has been a one-sided game so far. As we go ahead and jump ahead to the third quarter. It's a 21-7 lead for Katy. It's going to be a fumble from the quarterback, Gunnar Nelson. That's an unfortunate bounce. No, it's going to be Romel Jordan picking it up. So it looked like perhaps a bad bounce for Katy, and Jordan able to take advantage, picks it up, and scoops it in for the touchdown. Made it 28-7 for Katy at that point. Skipping ahead to the fourth quarter now. So we're going to take a look. It's a sophomore halfback. It's going to be Tremaine Hill bulldozing his way through for a 3-yard score, 35-7. It's Katy continuing to roll. And why not? Hand it off to Hills again later in the fourth quarter, 35-7 score. And let the sophomore get a few more touches. So they get a little bit of motion there, but it's going to go right up the middle again for Tremaine Hills. This time it's a 6-yard touchdown run. That's his second of the quarter, second of the night, and that is a 41-7 Katy lead over Katy Tompkins. We take you back into the quad box, and this is all 4 boxes filled with games, and we got a score just now. Denton Geyer with a touchdown. It looks like. Yep.
Josiah Martin. Remember the name, Josiah Martin.
Movement up front. Movement up front.
Prospect. He's one of my favorite players in this class. When I first watched him play, he was a guy who I thought was more of an outside presence at receiver. He's not the biggest guy. He's probably 5'10", 5'11" range, but he was a guy that understood how to stretch a defense vertically, a great deep ball game. As I scouted him throughout the course of the spring, he's a guy who's impressed me with his route running ability and ability as a slot wide receiver. So I think he's one of those types of guys who you can really line up anywhere within your offense, and he can make plays, and he's Denton Geyer's go-to guy.
So again, we were talking about it a little bit earlier. That was a big game against Toledo last weekend where they came up on the short end, and offense getting off to a little bit of a sluggish start, but now a 2-possession lead against a very good Lancaster team. So again, it's been very exciting to keep up with all this action as we've taken a look. There is a lot of really exciting games tonight. But, you know, we were looking earlier, Shadow Creek started to run away with their score a little bit. Let's take a little bit of a closer look inside of that program.
Opening up a new program can be difficult. Finding instant success can be even harder. But for Shadow Creek head coach Brad Butler, he's done just that. And Coach Butler has the Sharks in position to make another run in 2023. When Brad Butler got to Shadow Creek in 2016, he knew that building the right staff would be key.
One of the greatest things about opening a program is challenging. You know, I mean, everything is square one. But one of the greatest benefits of it is being able to basically go out and handpick, you know, your staff. It's different than going into a job where you can bring a couple of guys with you. I mean, here I was able to, you know, hire a nucleus of guys, and then kind of all of us brainstorming together and our connections and stuff. We were able to bring together a really, really good staff, and that helped us really get started in a hurry.
While building a program from the ground up, Coach Butler emphasized treating the players like varsity lettermen from day one.
It was a great experience. I mean, it's a testament to the work that those kids put in and the dedication of our staff. And you know, we those 2 years, those kids were treated like varsity players even when they were not playing a varsity schedule, and really just took to coaching. And you know, we were fortunate to get off to a good start. And you know, that first championship game that we made it to, it was even crazier because we were playing against my old high school head coach, you know, and Randy Allen at Highland Park. And so it's just been some really interesting things that have occurred over the years.
With the Sharks moving up from 5A to 6A, the major difference for Coach Butler has been depth.
No, I mean, we're competitive. We haven't had, you know, the playoff run that we would really like to have in 6A, but you know, the biggest difference I see is just the depth of the football teams, you know, and so, you know, that's one thing that you got to continually try to do is just, you know, build depth to where you can compete with, you know, sometimes schools that have a lot more kids than you do.
Shadow Creek, in just 6 years of varsity play, has already had plenty of wealth in the quarterback room.
Well, you know, I just think, you know, that is such a unique position, such a difficult position to play, and we've been very fortunate to have guys. We've done it with different type of players, you know, and we've tried to tweak to what their strengths were, but at the end of the day, you know, to be good at that position, you have to love football, and you have to be willing to be unselfish and be, you know, the greatest worker on the football team, and we've been fortunate to have that here.
For the Butler family, it was important to keep their son and former Sharks quarterback, Duke, in Alvin ISD.
Yeah, it's been, you know, we've got 2 older daughters that have been through school and graduated from college, and then Duke was the young one, and he was the only boy, and so he grew up running through the helmet at Manville, you know, dreaming of being a Maverick. And then when we came to Shadow Creek, you know, at first it was like, Dad, what are we doing, you know? And then he learned to love the Sharks, and it's just really been, it's been a family investment into Alvin ISD for us, so it's been a great ride.
Shadow Creek is 2-0 to start 2023 with back-to-back wins over perennial playoff opponents.
Well, I mean, obviously opening the season against Manville, you know, there's a lot of, I've said there's a lot of emotion among the kids. You know, it's bragging rights, it's neighborhood, so that was good to get through that one. I don't think, Coach Martin or I, either one, were probably extremely pleased with our performance. But and then last week, to get a win over Clear Springs, who's a tough program, well coached. I mean, you feel fortunate to be 2-0, but 3 non-district games, you have to grow during that time, and so that's what we're focused on, is just to get better every week.
Ahead of a star-studded matchup with Bridgeland on Friday, Coach Butler has immense respect for the Bears and new head coach Lonnie Madison.
Well, first of all, Coach Madison over there, new to Bridgeland. I've known him for years. He's an Aggie. I got a lot of respect for him, and he does a great job. I mean, and so we know that they've had 2 really, really tough ball games that they've fought to the very end and found a way to win. And so I don't have to say a whole lot to our guys to get them to realize, hey, over the last, 3 years, we've had some great battles with them, and they've had some great players, and we have too. And so, they'll be motivated and ready to try to get after it Friday.
All right, and again, thank you to Gavin Moritz for getting us that in-depth look at Shadow Creek, and they were rolling last time we checked in on their game with Bridgeland.
Yeah, it's a very interesting story there, too, about the whole Manville Shadow Creek thing, right, where Coach Butler kind of came up in that Manville system and then took over the reins at Shadow Creek. They've done nothing but win games there underneath his reign. I think they've only lost 9 games maybe since he's taken over as head coach there in his entire career, but it's less than 10, I believe. And they've won a state championship, and good things just keep happening, and good things are happening, it looks like, for them tonight as well.
Yeah, they've been on the right side of that score tonight as we take a look at some more highlights. We were looking at this one a little bit earlier, Chapel Hill versus Greenville. We take it to the second half. You were talking of calling Demetrius Brisbane's name quite a bit in those highlight packs. Here in the second half, how about Jabu Cook? Let the man cook for a 55-yard touchdown for the running back Chapel Hill. So you saw 42-0 there in the third. And how about a jet sweep? This is Cameron Kelly and a little jet sweep there inside the 5. And then we'll take a look Greenville. This is the quarterback Anthony Johnson on the design quarterback keeper to get Greenville on the board. And that one going final is Chapel Hill with the 56-14 win over Greenville tonight.
Yeah, and it looked like some backups were getting some work there. I didn't see Demetrius Brisbane's number on the field whenever you were calling those highlight packages, but good to see Greenville get on the scoreboard there at the end of the game.
As again, this is a game we've been watching throughout the night. Denton Geyer and Lancaster into the fourth quarter. Geyer with a 2-possession lead. Lancaster trying to make it interesting in the fourth quarter.
They're on the right side of the 50, and then they can dial up a big pass play. You'll see the wide receiver here at the bottom of your screen. That's a manual choice, and he's 6'4", 175 pounds. If you're looking for a deep ball, why not dial one up to him, right? So we'll see what happens here, but there was a receiver coming open on the slant. Just missed him, overthrown a little bit there. I'll let you know that Choice is matched up on the bottom of the screen here against Eli Bowen, and at the top of the screen, that's the matchup that you're looking for, because you do not want to test Eli Bowen. He's an Oklahoma commitment who's a Mr. Everything. He's not the biggest guy on the field, but he plays like he's the biggest guy on the field, and he's an old school type of football player.
All right, we got Crosby and Baytown now coming up on Dave Campbell's Texas football tonight.
And here's a reminder for everybody that's at home wanting to dial into these games as they come down the stretch. TexanLive.com. You can buy a subscription to not only get all the best games across the state, you can get a subscription to Dave Campbell's Texas football magazines as well. Why not get a 2-for-1 right there? It's the best deal in sports.
You know, my parents, they signed up for that, I think last week, just, to watch and support Texan Live, and they got their magazine in today, so I think we've got like 4 copies of the magazine in the house.
That's awesome. So it gets to you quick. I know our team in the office does a great job of getting those out and putting everything together.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Again, we're taking a look there. The bottom right, College Station rolling against Temple. That's a 60-22 score. You surprised at all that College Station were able to put up 60 points on the board?
I'm not surprised that College Station is able to score. I am surprised that Temple would give up that many points in a game. As you see the final seconds kind of ticking off here, as College Station is going to be able to secure this 60-22 victory. I feel bad for what the practice week is going to be like for Temple. Scott Stewart's a very defensive-minded coach, so I know that they're going to be getting back as a team and trying to figure out what went wrong in this game. But College Station's really coming into this game with a chip on their shoulder as well. You know, they lost that week 1 game to Lovejoy.
Yeah.
They had a week of preparation to get ready for Temple, so let's not discredit that. They were like a rare week 3 game where they didn't have a week 2 game. So they were able to prepare, you know, specifically for Temple for 2 weeks and scheme for them. So maybe there was something to that as well. As we flash back in here at Denton, Guyer, and Lancaster down at Lancaster,
they're
moving the ball.
yeah,
they're marching the
down.
ball down, you know, slowly and steadily. And see the quarterback here.
There we go, getting out to the outside now.
It's a big gain right there. It's a big gain inside the red zone now for the Tigers as they're looking to tack on some points to make this a game as we're in the 4th quarter here. As they're trying to make a comeback on Denton Guyer. It's a tough defense to make a comeback on.
Yeah, it's never an easy task trying to go up against that Denton Guyer defense. But Lancaster, again, moving the ball. They're inside the 25. They're in the 4th. A couple of really solid programs. We'll see if Lancaster can get back to within a possession. That's going to be a nice run up the middle, and that's going to get inside the 20, so a productive run on the first down.
Denton Guyer has a really talented defensive front. They've got basically a 2 deep that's all D1 or D1-ish type of guys. They've got a couple of freshmen there that I'm really keeping my eye on that are already on the varsity team. A 6'1", 250-pounder in Kyron Haywood and a 6'5", 220-pounder in Zane Rowe. Between them, they already have 20 offers, and they are only 3 games into their freshman season.
So we'll see. That's a very good game. Crosby and Baytown Lee. Looks like that is a 36-35. Oh, no, it's going to be a 44-43 score. I think just with 11 seconds left, so that's been a really fun game.
Yeah, that might be one that's worth checking out right there. If you're wanting to see a little bit more on that game, head on over to TexanLive.com where you can check it out. And here we've got a one-sided affair. This
surprising.
is this is a score that really does surprise me a lot. 34-0 here, Summer Creek over Klein Collins. I would not have expected Klein Collins to potentially get shut out in this game. There's only 2 minutes and 46 seconds left remaining before this one's over. As you see, Tucker Parks there missing on his running back. Summer Creek is led on defense by Xavier Atkins, but if you're looking for an underclassman name to know, take a look at Chad Woodfork. This is a guy who's picked up an offer from Oklahoma State this week. He's got a lot of really good offers. He is the number 10 prospect or the number 9 prospect in the 2025 Hot 100. So he's definitely a guy that everybody needs to know about. Yep. He's a pin your ears back and rush the quarterback type of guy. And here we're going to take a closer look at Xavier Atkins, who's coming in from, well, I believe that's Woodfork's highlights here coming off the edge.
And just so quick just so quick to get there in the backfield. I mean, feel bad for any opposing quarterback having to go up against that. And, wow, just plugging up the middle right there.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. The Summer Creek defense is definitely talented as you got a couple of 4-stars leading the charge. But it's a team effort when you pitch shutouts. When you put blanks on the scoreboard, you can't just point to one player and say this is the reason why. That's a team effort.
Yeah. So does that score there for Summer Creek, does that put a bit of a target on their back going throughout the rest of the year?
It takes them to 3-0, right, heading into district play, and it's a team that's consistently very good. I didn't know that they had that type of defensive presence, but maybe it took them a couple of weeks to gel.
Yeah. As we'll take a look, we're jumping in now. C.E. King, Pearland. We were talking about this game a little bit earlier as C.E. King marching down.
You want to know what I find impressive about C.E. King is they're a team that's been loaded up with a lot of Division I players. There hasn't been as much talk about some of the guys on their team this year, but they really passed the eyeball test. They knocked off Allen last week, so that was a huge win for them. Maybe, people are underestimating C.E. King a little bit this year, and they shouldn't. Because they might not have those marquee names, those big-time 4- and 5-star guys that were going on to Texas and Texas A&M and those types of teams, maybe we should be giving C.E. King a bit more credit because Pearland's a tough team to beat, and they're in full control of this game, up 16 points in the 4th quarter.
Jumping back over to the Guyer-Lancaster game, and Again, Lancaster knocking on the door. They're inside the 20 there in the 4th. It's going to be a handoff up the middle inside the 10 and a touchdown. So Lancaster does respond, and it's going to be a one-score game.
That's Kawan Lacey, and he is a talented prospect in his own right. A guy going off to Nebraska in the Big Ten to play his college football and taking his helmet off. I mean, I think it was Kawan Lacey, but it also might have been Markel Porter. They've got a very talented 1-2 combination at running back at Lancaster.
As you see this game, I mean, this was a very exciting game, went right down to the wire, and that's a big win for Crosby, 44-42 over Baytown Lee.
Yeah, you've had them here on Texas Football Tonight recently as one of the spotlight games where they walked away with a pretty big-time defeat. So to see them bounce back in impressive fashion to pull off a 2-point win over Baytown Lee is pretty cool.
All right, so again, we see Summer Creek, they're rolling. Geyer, Lancaster, that's a very exciting game. North Shore has been in control all night. So we talked about it at the start of the show. Week 3 is where you start to find out who the real contenders are. Real quick, I did want to give an update, though, that Eaton and Hebron game we were looking at throughout the night, that one has been suspended. So that won't be finished tonight, as again, we've had some strong storms in the area. But getting back into my original question, talking about week 3 is where you start to really see some of the contenders. Who are some of the contenders that stood out to you tonight?
Well, I think first and foremost, you got to look at North Shore, right?
Yep.
They're a team that's perennially in the state championship mix. They've been at AT&T Stadium almost every year that I've in the most recent years, it's been North Shore and Duncanville and that state championship game. So that's a matchup that I think that you could potentially anticipate based off of what we've seen throughout the early course of this season. I think there was a question mark there because John Kay left, right? Until you see the head coach step in, a new head coach step in, you want to see them be able to pull up victory. So if you're asking me like bottom line, like contenders, I'm looking at what we saw tonight, North Shore and College Station. Two very impressive wins and two teams that fell just one game short of winning a state championship last season. And
one other game that we were looking at, one of our spotlight games that went final, that is a 41-24 win for Shadow Creek as they rolled over Bridgeland. And we're going to go right back into Geyer and Lancaster. As again, that one, Geyer, that back-to-back weeks, games coming down toward the wire. This is an 8-point game at the moment.
Heading down to the wire, and it looks like Lancaster has the ball back. Again, TexanLive.com. We're running out of time on Dave Campbell's Texas Football Tonight, but if you're a big-time high school football fan, you can log on to TexanLive.com and catch the end of this thrilling game. 2 weeks in a row for Denton Geyer here, going down to the wire. I know that Coach Reed Heim is probably going to need a break after this one as he's been up against it the last couple weeks. And, of course, the Lancaster coaching staff has done a tremendous job since they've gotten there, leading this team in the right direction, getting them back on top since Coach Gilbert has left to go on to the college ranks to coach some really cool teams.
Yeah, I know if I were probably on that Geyer coaching staff after these last 2 weeks, probably add a few gray hairs. But Lancaster right at the 20, they're going to hand it off, and that was a bit of a broken play from the handoff. And Denton Geyer able to make the play. But we'll go right into the audio of this game coming right down to the wire.
Flattens ball carrier. Markel Porter with no chance to get going is thrown for a 3-yard loss. A great play there for a 3-yard loss. Great play by Vincent Burke. He's been very active all night. A number of times in the pass rush on blitzes. Been an important defender out in the flat on some of those screen passes, and on a couple of occasions kept ball carriers from getting further downfield. So there's 51 seconds left in the ball game. 3rd down and 5 for the Tigers from the 37-yard line.
This is becoming a real thunderous ending to quite a game here in Lancaster.
2 receivers on either side of the quarterback. He drops back. Jones drops back. He gets rushed. He flips it out. He had a receiver, and he just overthrew him. Had he been able to get it to the receiver, he might have gotten into the end zone.
Yeah, just maybe a little bit more touch or put it more on a line for Tierick Martin, the Texas Tech recruit, to try and get under it. just not enough touch, I guess, by the quarterback there for Lancaster, bringing up a 4th and 5, it looks like, from our angle, and it's coming down to the wire. I'm not sure if this game's going to be called because the lightning is becoming more frequent, but I don't know if they just want to make sure this game is played.
And the snap is back to Jones. He has a receiver out in the flat, but he overthrows him. And for all intent and purposes, that will put a bow on this ball game. For Geyer, it gets interesting there at the end. However,
So Lancaster turning it over on downs, a big stop for the Denton Geyer defense. Final thoughts. Again, we already talked about some of the contenders, but your first time here on the desk, final thoughts of this week 3 action.
Well, man, this is a lot of fun, especially going into the quad box and checking in with some of these games. It seems like each and every week we're having a heavy hitter going down to the wire, and you just saw the Denton Geyer defense getting off the field there. But is there still time for Leon Paul and Lancaster to be able to get this back in? You can check it out on TexanLive.com, so just go ahead and tune in.
Again, a lot of exciting games, a couple of those being suspended because some weather moving in throughout the state. But thank you so much for joining us for this Week 3 edition of Texas Football Tonight. For our producers, Mallory Hartley and Ashley Pickle, our director is Seth Biley, and the man sitting right next to me, Greg Powers. This is Nick Laupia saying good night and enjoy your weekend.